Our story kicks off in a corporate hellscape where the mottos are brutal. Results are everything. Effort without success is trash. And if you aren't grinding to improve, you're told to pack your bags and get out. The commands are relentless. Every single thing has to be locked, loaded, and ready for action before the sun even peaks over the horizon. The higher-ups are constantly holding the axe over their heads, bragging that there's a mile-long line of people just waiting to take their spot. Truth is, this company is a straight-up corporate nightmare that grinds its workers to the bone. It's so brutal that the staff is literally forced to sleep at their desks just to survive the grind. William snaps awake, drenched in a cold sweat and completely losing his grip on whether that nightmare was real or just a dream. Classic move. He oversleeps yet again and starts frantically stumbling through his morning routine in a total daze. As he heads in, his coworkers shout out hellos, but a grizzled guy with a massive beard stops him to ask if he pulled another soul-crushing all-nighter yesterday. He snaps back that he only filed the report because Chairman Barnett personally ordered him to do it. Back at the shop, the bearded boss hands William a fresh request from the Aver family and tells him, "William, I'm really counting on you for this." The bearded guy is blown away by how much the clients adore them, and while he's down for extra work, he warns that if they miss their monthly quota, the chairman is going to make their lives a living hell. As the team stares at the new projections on the board, the cold, hard truth hits them. These goals are absolutely impossible to reach. William isn't being fooled for a second. He knows exactly what kind of mess he's really dealing with. William dives right back into his flow and takes on a new project, a beat-up chair. But he's absolutely livid when he realizes some amateur totally butchered the previous repairs. Our MC instantly connects the dots, realizing this chair is straight from Miguel's village, after Jess's grandma reported her favorite knitting seat was completely trashed. After giving it a look, William decides to overhaul the handrails and round those edges to make the armrests feel way more comfortable. Here's the deal. William works for Barnett, a massive trading empire in the Kingdom of Dal that deals in everything from spoons to swords for everyone from lowly villagers to the high and mighty elite. William grinds away as a company craftsman using the only talent he's got, even though crafting is basically a dime a dozen in this kingdom. Surrounded by elite masters just like him, William's got nowhere left to run, so he's just letting the tide of fate sweep him away. The bearded craftsman lets out a roar, signaling that the job is finally done. He hands off the freshly fixed chair to the transport crew so they can get it moving. They pile the goods onto horse-drawn wagons and haul them straight to the customers' front doors. With a final warning not to be late, the cards rocket toward their destinations, proving that this company's insane logistical speed is the exact reason they've become such a massive powerhouse. A voice thunders through the entire building, barking at everyone to grind harder so their products can line the pockets of the trading house. William catches the sound of that voice and instantly knows Chairman Barnett is starting his rounds through the workstations. Closing the gap, he bellows at the top of his lungs, "Hey, William!" MC whips around only to find the chairman looming right over him, declaring that William failed the mission yet again, leaving our guy desperate and begging for mercy. The chairman barks at him, demanding to know if those documents from yesterday are finally finished. He orders him to pick up the pace, cold-bloodedly reminding William that everyone is replaceable. Suddenly, a sharp, distant memory flashes through William's mind. Suddenly, it hits William like a ton of bricks. He's actually dead. Back in his past life, he was a total corporate slave who literally worked himself into an early grave. He's officially back from the dead, proving his reincarnation was a total success. The chairman's furious shout for William to get those damn documents snaps our MC right back to reality. Yeah, I'm moving!" William shouts back, frantically scrambling to get those documents ready in time. He's already staked out the chairman's office, tearing through the paperwork and demanding the full breakdown on their customers and where the market is heading. William doesn't miss a beat and confirms that he's already got it covered. As he catches Barnett's face twisting in rage, it suddenly clicks. This guy is the spitting image of his nightmare boss from his past life. Barnett looks up with a smug grin and delivers the crushing blow. William is officially fired. Our hero is completely blindsided, demanding to know how on earth something that insane is even possible. Barnett announces that his son is officially taking the reins of the entire empire, and the chairman gives William a huge shout-out for his service. Chairman Barnett is absolutely losing his mind, William. He's spiraling and can't make sense of any of this. The chairman slams William for being too slow to hit his targets, while Barnett sneers that the company has absolutely no use for such a worthless craftsman. He doubles down, swearing that he's not just a salesman. He's giving his clients the one thing they actually need. Barnett snaps back, arguing that no customer is going to pay for a pipe dream that doesn't actually exist. He claims these buyers don't give a damn about quality. They'll just settle for whatever's already sitting in stock. He insists they stick to the script and follow their ruthless slogan. Make it cheaper, pump it out faster, and crush the competition with pure volume. The chairman lays down the final word, and that's the end of that. William is left absolutely reeling after that bombshell of a decision. Barnett tells him to pack his bags and vanish the second the coast is clear. The chairman nods to his son to kick things off, but keep in mind, William's regular clients are the biggest high rollers the company has ever seen. Barnett keeps the momentum going, revealing that William's gear was somehow flying off the shelves despite being totally average. But since his slow pace is leaving a fortune on the table, the chairman taps his own son to take over and bleed those rich clients dry. Barnett lays down the law, preaching that elite clients are magnets for even more power, and his son needs to step up, but the kid just flashes a confident grin and tells his old man he's got this. William steps out of the chairman's office and lets out a sharp, jagged breath, finally feeling that suffocating pressure lift. As he stalks down the hallway, his mind is racing through the list of gear he absolutely can't leave behind. Once he's back at the office, William wastes no time gearing up, reaching for the highest shelf to pull down the dusty Shinjo, the legendary sacred staff of Ristake. He actually scored this legendary gift from the leader of an elite S-rank party. It's a god-tier artifact that grants him total mastery over every single magical element. William stashed it away as a backup plan, but he eventually decided magic just wasn't his vibe and never actually touched the stuff. William mulls over the concept of magic, but then it hits him. His very own reincarnation is the ultimate proof that he's landed in a world where the impossible is actually real. The moment William steps through the door, he hears those familiar pie dash sounds as Rudy the Eagle Owl swoops in to welcome him home. His owl buddy perches right on his hand, and as William looks at him, he realizes the poor guy's been waiting forever, leaving him to wonder. All right, what's the move now? William stops to face the cold, hard truth about himself. Even after being reborn in a new world, he somehow wound up right back in a den of scoundrels, nearly repeating his past mistakes. He realizes he's officially done with this pathetic way of living. From this moment on, he's swearing to forge a brand new path. Grabbing his gear and the sacred staff of Ristak and Rudy, he sets off on his journey, dead set on living this second life to the absolute fullest. William hits up his regulars for one last goodbye, making sure to grab that chair before heading over to check on Grandma Jess. And just like that, he's officially taking his first big step toward a totally new life. Sticking to the plan, the very first thing William does is head over to see Grandma Jess. He presents her with the perfectly restored chair and gives her his best wishes for a long, healthy life. While he's there, he makes his rounds to say a final goodbye to all the neighbors in the village. The Aver family is officially next in line, so we're shutting down every other order and delivering a massive apology. Stepping into the Aver family castle, William drops a massive bombshell. He's handing over a resignation letter and officially refusing to take another order. The head of the family is absolutely crushed by the news, claiming he's finished without William by his side. But our MC steps in with a heavy apology and vows to take over the work himself. The family head reveals that this newcomer is actually Barnett's son, but as far as he's heard, the kid hasn't done a single thing worth mentioning. He originally joined the Knights just to flex for the ladies, but after his constant scandals got him booted, he ended up stuck working for his father's trading company. Aver starts explaining that William's craft is on a whole different level compared to any other master. Even if the designs look similar, William pours his blood, sweat, and tears into perfecting every tiny detail. His biggest obsession? Making sure whatever he creates is perfect for the person who'll eventually own it. He whips out a sword from William as total proof, while the boss explains it was custom forged for its master with a perfectly tuned grip and insane balance. Avert is absolutely floored, declaring that William's insane skills leave every other blacksmith in the dust. Our guy just shrugs and tells them he forged this insane blade himself, all thanks to the legendary master who taught him everything he knows. It wasn't just about the cool stuff William built. He actually respected the guy for being dead honest and never sucking up to the Verkhouse just to get on their good side. He and his family are officially pulling the plug on their deal, but he makes sure to give William a massive shout-out for those kind words. The bird-headed guy tries to pin down William's next move, but our hero just stammers an awkward excuse and starts booking it down the road. Just as the father speaks up, his daughter struts into the room and introduces herself as Limit. Her dad presses her one more time, demanding to know if she actually overheard his private conversation with William. From here, EMC's journey takes them straight into the heart of the Kingdom of Murkies. As William steps onto the scene, it hits him hard. It's been ages since he last set foot in this neck of the woods. William touches down at the Murky Castle only to be cornered by Gory, the kingdom's stressed-out Minister of Foreign Affairs. Gory's absolutely livid that William is finally showing his face again, and he wastes no time dropping the bombshell that they're cutting ties with the trade guild. But the real gut punch is the news about the succession. which makes the whole situation even more of a mess. Honestly, William can't even blame the guy for losing his cool. As he looks at the chaos, he can't help but wonder how many more times he's going to have to deal with this exact same drama. But our MC reveals he's not just there to drop off news. He's actually got a massive favor to ask. The minister leans in, dying to know what kind of scheme he's cooking up. William explains he's got a mountain hideout in Bergen Village right outside the capital, and he wants to flip it into his very own workshop. The minister is totally hooked. The idea of a workshop in his own kingdom is just too good to pass up. But William's not rushing it. He tells them he's going to take his sweet time getting everything perfect from the jump. The minister gives the green light without a second thought, absolutely hyped that a legendary talent like William is finally calling their country home. The minister gives his word that Bergen is getting that official green light sent straight to their doorstep. He vows to go all out and pour every ounce of effort into his work, without holding anything back. Overwhelmed with relief, William bows low and offers his heartfelt thanks for the support. William and Rudy finally arrive at the edge of the village, where William proudly announces that this is the official starting line for their new life. But the house is just a tiny, janky shack that's leaning so far over it's practically sideways. Huge chunks of the roof are completely missing, leaving the whole place exposed to the elements. To say this dump needs some serious work would be the understatement of the century. Rudy just stares at the wreckage, clearly not feeling the new home hype at all. Standing before the shack, William figures it's a bit mid, but with the Bergen headman's blessing, he's ready to flex his craftsman skills and flip this place solo. But after that grueling trek, they've got to grab a quick bite and crash hard for the night. William is still totally dead to the world as dawn breaks, but a sudden, sharp knock at the door completely shatters his peaceful slumber. Still pinned to his mattress, he shouts into the dark to see who's lurking, but the only response is a bone-chilling silence. He creeps up to the door and cracks it open just enough to peek inside. He looks up to see a stunning blonde standing right there, greeting him with a radiant smile. "Good morning, William," she says, sounding way too casual. Our guy is completely blindsided, his brain short-circuiting as he tries to process what's happening. "Wait, Mrs. Limit?" he stammers, needing to double-check that he actually heard her right. William's jaw hits the floor. He's got zero clue how such a stunning woman ended up in a place like this. Limit drops a massive bombshell, announcing that from this day forward, she's swearing a vow of absolute loyalty to him. "Wait, come again?" William stammered, his jaw hitting the floor as he struggled to process the absolute bombshell that was just dropped. And just like that, our hero's second shot at life kicked off in the most chaotic way imaginable. Her eyes light up with pure hype as she points him out, shouting that she's finally found her man. He presses her once more, demanding to know what she's even doing there. Limit breaks the news that with William out of the picture, the Aver house is absolutely fed up with both the Barnett trading company and the new guy in charge. Limit drops a bombshell. His family has officially ripped up their contract with Barnett. Our MC's eyes practically pop out of his skull as he gapes in total disbelief, barely choking out a stunned, "What?" while the maids eavesdrop from the shadows and Rudy keeps a close eye on the drama from his perch on the roof. This whole saga kicked off just a few days ago when the Aver family pulled up to the Barnett company headquarters. Waiting there to greet them was the big boss, Mr. Barnett himself, with his son standing right by his side. He stepped up and announced that from this moment on, the Barnetts would do absolutely anything to make sure their every request was met. After shooting a devious look at the Avergs, Last turned on the charm for Mrs. Limit, acting like he was thrilled to meet them for the very first time. Right then, he snatches her hand, pulls her in close, and plants a smooth kiss on it while announcing he's the final guest to join the party. He introduces himself as Barnett, making sure she knows it's a pleasure to meet her. Limit is so completely flustered and overwhelmed by the move that she can't even find her words, only managing a shy, nervous giggle. The Averg family was absolutely fuming as they watched the meeting spiral out of control. You could see the pure disgust written all over his face and burning in his eyes. And believe me, Lennett was just as livid. Barnett steps up and announces the job is finished, making it clear that he was the last one in and the one who personally saw it through. Right then, the staff hauled in massive crates fitted with heavy-duty reinforced doors. Finally, he reveals the big prize, a massive order for custom chest plates meant specifically for the elite guards of House Verge. The Averg patriarch snatched up the Koras, his eyes darting over every inch of the product to make sure it was the real deal. With a look of pure intensity, he grilled Chairman Barnett on the final inspection, and the old man fired back with a confident grin. "You bet your life I did." Williams's breakthrough changed the game, finally allowing the armor to be custom-fitted to the user's body. The leader kept rambling on, his eyes glued to the finished gear as he gave it a dead-serious inspection. He grumbled that this specific breastplate wasn't adjustable at all and kept digging into the wearer's arm. "There's no way you're pulling off a decent sword swing in this thing," he added. Limit shot a sideways glance at her father, feeling the pure heat of his indignation radiating off him. To him, the soldiers of House Urg aren't just subordinates. They're his own flesh and blood. His voice thundered as he continued to roar with conviction. There's no way he'd gamble with their lives by handing them trashy, unreliable gear. The Verge leader is absolutely fuming, shouting that he's done with your shady business and lazy attitude, and he's especially not forgiving how you treated his daughter. Last's face went bone white as his eyes filled with pure sorrow, just as the head of the Virgins stepped up to announce that their contract was officially dead. William is absolutely floored by the news, his pupils dilating as the sheer weight of the story hits him like a truck. Limit starts weighing the future of the House of Averba Rose and decides to lock in an exclusive contract with William at a spot suggested by Minister Gory. William takes it all in, waiting until the very last word before finally speaking up. Limit hits his breaking point, shouting that there's no way he can keep working under William's insane conditions. Our guy takes one look at her and immediately drops his gaze, totally overwhelmed by her presence. But Limit just beams at them, announcing she's back to keep their partnership alive and lend some serious backup. William's heart is racing as he tries to guess what kind of crazy stunt she's about to pull off. Keep those answers short and to the point. His father finally gave the official thumbs up. Our MC breaks down exactly what that implies for their plan. She speaks her mind, as long as William is okay with it. The mistress's entire squad of maids shouts in perfect unison that they're dying to move in. William's jaw hits the floor in total shock as his eyes practically bulge out of his head. She's spent her whole life dreaming of this moment, and now she's finally letting loose, spinning through the dance with pure, unadulterated joy. One of the maids spills the beans, revealing the mistress was always obsessed with the wildlife of an adventurer. And that burning desire is exactly why she did it. A girl in sharp formal wear and flowing hair steps up to our MC, greeting him with a warm, "Master William, it's been way too long. Meet Agnes, the head maid of the Aver house." William is caught completely off guard, but she explains that the big boss himself ordered her to stick to the young lady like glue. Agnes spills the tea, explaining how the young lady was a total nervous wreck when William left the company. But now that they've finally reunited, she's absolutely over the moon. While the maids scramble to haul all that luggage off the carts, Agnes makes it clear that the Averg family isn't just backing William. They're ready to go all in to help him. And though William is seriously grateful, he knows there's a catch. He's totally committed to the grind just to keep his new life peaceful. And he says it with such a heartfelt expression that he actually closes his eyes to take it all in. August groans, trying to get a straight answer. But William just brushes him off and struts away, soaking in the gorgeous morning vibes. That's just how the cards fell, and he was dead set on just living out a quiet, peaceful life. Shouts are erupting nearby. Keep pulling. Meanwhile, the Major is already hard at work setting up the base camp. They pour their absolute heart and soul into their craft, fueled by a creative fire that never burns out. As William locks eyes with them, a sudden spark ignites in his lifeless gaze and a massive grin spreads across his face. Looking back on his years of grind, he realizes his memory is a total blank whenever it comes to the times he actually worked with a team. He catches Limit and the maids cheering over a new tent, and it hits him. It's time to stop playing it safe and start living this life in a completely different way. William was drifting through dreamland when Limit suddenly lost her footing, crashing to the dirt with a blood-curdling scream as her tent collapsed. The maids who were supposed to be helping her could only stand there frozen, shrieking in absolute terror. Dusting herself off, she realizes the hard way that setting up a tent is a total nightmare. William marches up and warns them that stuffing 5 people into one tent is going to be a total nightmare. But he makes it clear. Staying outside after dark is basically a death sentence. He keeps pressing the issue. Limit tries to shut him down, but he's not backing off. William closes the distance, locking eyes with her as he declares that since Mr. Erver gave the green light and Mrs. Limit is all for it, the path is finally clear. Getting all choked up, he finally pops the question. Do they want to move in together? He's already planning to renovate the cabin and build a room for every single one of them. Limit was caught completely off guard by the offer, but she wasn't complaining. Her eyes practically popped out of her head with pure excitement. She finally asks the question, desperate not to be a burden to William. I mean, won't they just end up getting in his way? Our hero shoots a playful wink and grins, telling them that the more the merrier, since they're finally starting to look like a legit squad of legendary adventurers. William breaks the news that this expansion is going to need a mountain of resources, and the second he asks for backup, everyone's all in. They were surrounded by a thick, sprawling forest. In no time at all, they managed to haul in a massive mountain of timber. William takes one look at the haul and declares they finally have more than enough. With the stage finally set, Williams didn't waste a single second and dove straight into the work, absolutely fired up. He sizes up his crumbling hut and realizes that before he can even think about growing, he's got to fix what's already broken. To kick things off, our guy starts tearing out all the broken junk and clearing the wreckage from the ruins. Next, they beef up the defenses, turning the whole place into an absolute fortress. Limit and the Maids are totally spellbound, watching in pure awe as William works his magic. She stares out the window of the tiny hut, her mind spiraling deep into the shadows of her past. Limit's mind drifts back to a specific memory. She was getting decked out for a massive family gala with her maid, Agnes, handling the prep. But honestly, Limit was totally over the whole thing. Agnes noticed the vibe and told her mistress she needed to stop pouting immediately. She reminded Limit that she was a natural-born beauty. But if she kept that sour look on her face, she'd throw all that charm right out the window. Limit tries to speak up and object, but he's immediately shut down. Agnes kept going, revealing that tonight's massive gala is actually a high-stakes hunt to pick out her future husband. As Schmidt sat meekly before the mirror, Agnes warned her not to pull another disappearing act, which honestly left the lady absolutely fuming. It finally clicked for Limit. She was the one and only daughter in the entire Aver family. Whenever she steps into a ballroom, those power-hungry nobles swarm her like vultures, desperate to use her as a bridge to her father's influence while not giving a single damn about the girl herself. Just as he's getting lost in the shadows of his past, a voice suddenly snaps him back to reality, announcing that his evening dress is finally ready to go. She whips around and nearly jumps out of her skin when she sees William standing right in front of her. Limit doesn't waste a heartbeat and slips right into the dress. She catches her reflection in the mirror and her eyes light up with pure joy. Agnes and William jump into action, pinning and hemming every detail for that perfect fit. William leans in and asks Lady Limit how she's feeling in her brand new look. William points out that because she's always talking with her hands, he made sure the embroidery on her cuffs looks absolutely stunning every time she moves. As they examine the dress together, William points out the fairy flower on the cuff, explaining it's a powerful symbol of pure freedom, fantasy, and the legendary Tembakoku. William tells her he knew it was the perfect fit, and Limit's eyes start to sparkle with pure adoration as she looks back at him. Suddenly, a voice rings out from the void, and that's all we get. Limit finally snaps out of her daydream. She looks up and can't believe her eyes. The old hut has been completely overhauled into something unrecognizable. William beams with pride, telling her it's just a temporary setup. He admits their real mansion is still a long way off, but this spot is perfect for a quick sleepover. She totally disagrees, insisting it's the ultimate secret base for an epic adventure. Honestly, the transformation is just breathtaking. The whole place is glowing with fresh paint and that crisp new house smell. That old rotting shack is officially a thing of the past. William, Limit, and the Maids finally step inside the newly renovated hut, and as our guy checks out the handiwork, he realizes they just need some furniture to turn this place into a legit base of operations. Limit is absolutely vibing with the situation, shooting William a grateful, narrow-eyed grin that shows she's soaking in every second of this win. Our MC practically glows as he announces it's finally time for dinner, reminding everyone they've worked so hard they skipped lunch, and he's betting that nearby river is teeming with fresh fish. Limit clutched her face, her mind spinning as she weighed the options. She'd never cast a line in her life, but the itch to go fishing was becoming irresistible, so she went all in and backed the proposal with everything she had. That's when William has a total lightbulb moment, suggesting they snag some tree branches and craft their very own fishing rods from scratch. And just like that, the whole squad heads down to the riverbank to see who can reel in the biggest catch. Agnes is the first to step up and show off her insane skills, handling that fishing rod and net like a total pro, while the other maids watch her in absolute awe. William's blown away when he realizes Agnes is a total pro at fishing. Suddenly, a fish slams into Limit's line and she completely loses it, death gripping the rod while screaming her head off. William hooks one too, but our MC stays ice cold, telling Mrs. Limit to just keep a steady, gentle pull. He's such a total rookie that the fish wiggles right off the hook and makes a clean getaway. William steps up to the distraught woman to comfort her, vowing that next time, they're absolutely going to nail it. She spins toward William with a sudden request, but he's left scratching his head and asking her to fill him in on the details. Limit steps right in front of William as shyly looks down, pleading with him to finally drop the stiff, formal act. Our guy is completely baffled, staring at the scene like his brain just short-circuited. She doubles down, insisting that since she's actually younger than him, he needs to drop the formalities and treat her like a peer, even as William tries to sputter out a protest. Limit finally snaps, hysterically screaming that addressing him as you is now strictly forbidden. William just scratches the back of his head with a cheeky grin, telling them he hears them loud and clear. She's ditching the fancy titles and demands he just call her by her first name. Face turning beet red, he hesitates for a split second before finally roaring out his limit. The moment he wraps things up, his mistress is right there to shower him with praise. The sound of fish frantically splashing echoes all throughout the river. Rudy shouts that they have finally got a bite, so William and Limit scramble for the rod while our MC coaches them on exactly how to reel it in like a pro. Somewhere else entirely, Ari Tachibana, the powerhouse leader of the Moonlight Squad, is already deep in the middle of another hunt. She might look delicate, but this raven-haired adventurer is a lightning-fast blur who hides a mysterious bandaged eye and strikes with a lethal whip of pure frost. She absolutely flattens the royal Heracross, leaving her entire party of adventurers staring in total disbelief. The second she steps back into town, a massive crowd of adventurers swarms her, absolutely hyped that she's back in one piece and even more stoked about the insane mountain of loot she's hauling. Laston is also right there in the greeting line, eager to see if Mrs. Tachibana is actually putting that custom whip he crafted to good use. She walks right past him, not even giving him a second look. Now he's spiraling, wondering if his masterpiece is actually a total disaster, which is insane because he literally used the legendary skin of an Amoa sea crocodile. He's already asking about getting combat boots next time, but Last just starts flexing his own pair, bragging that they're crafted from genuine red deer skin. He's mourning his ruined boots in this absolute dump, but Lasting is too busy spiraling, desperate to know if the lady actually liked his gear after he hauled himself all the way out to this godforsaken wilderness. Eerie finally snaps back with a blunt reality check. This whip is absolute trash. Last is absolutely floored, completely blindsided by what just happened. He tosses the whip back to Last, scoffing that the attack power is still a total joke and lacks any real punch. Then, with a dead serious look, she drops a bombshell. This guy isn't even in the same league as William, and that insane pressure she felt before is completely gone. Slumping in Last with a look of pure defeat, he's left wondering, what's the big deal with these whips anyway? Just then, an adventurer rushes over with big news. A letter has finally arrived for Eerie. Eerie singles out her target with total precision. A messenger from the House of Verge steps forward to set the record straight. Inside the Verge family's massive fortress, the stage is set for a high-stakes meeting happening tonight. Meanwhile, William and Limit are kicking back by the water, having a blast while making their fishing trip super productive. A thunderous bang echoes through the Barnett company office as the boss slams his fist down, exploding in a total rage and demanding to know why every single client is suddenly dumping their contracts with the guild. "What the hell are you doing, idle?" he roars at the employees cowering before him with their heads bowed in shame. Laston walks right in and confronts him face to face. He explains that the Moonlight Group's leader just got a message from the Verge House, and since she's William's former client, it smells like a massive conspiracy is brewing. Wait, Mr. Barnett is absolutely fuming now. Is she really plotting something behind everyone's backs? Barnett roars that he is not letting him run wild anymore, demanding they dig into every single piece of this intel right now. Eerie's marching through the palace corridors, totally convinced she's just on her way to a routine business meeting. She steps into the conference room to find 3 others already waiting, and right on cue, Mr. Freed announces that the whole gang is finally here. Mr. Reverb kicks off the meeting by flexing that he's gathered all of William's biggest power players and elite clients into one single room. The whole room leans in, hanging on his every word. Fried presses on, ready to drop the bombshell results of his secret investigation. He shouts that keeping a talent like William's hidden in the dark any longer would be an absolute sin. On the surface, his work looks deceptively simple, but every tiny detail is obsessed over to create something tailor-made, cozy, and drop-dead gorgeous. Fried makes it clear that everyone is counting on him, so he's calling for the backup they need to get the job done. Fried pulls aside Mr. Saxon, the bearded old legend ruling this misty island, to see where his loyalties lie. And it turns out Saxon respects William's hustle so much he's actually down to help. William isn't just being a saint, he's only seeing this through because his daughter is rooting for the guy. And since she's got a perfect track record for reading people, this dude is definitely the real deal. "Spot on, Mr. Saxon," Fried chirps, a wicked, mysterious smirk playing across his face. Fried wheels around to Mr. Tennis, putting him right in the hot seat. He's dying to know what the legendary blacksmith thinks of this absolute mess, especially since word on the street says he's the master who taught William everything he knows. Tennis admits that watching him pour every ounce of energy into his work was a total spectacle. This guy is a seasoned veteran with silver hair, a rugged, unkempt beard, and some seriously wild eyebrows. He keeps his mane tied back in a messy bun to stay out of his face while he works. Tennis keeps gushing about how William is a straight-up natural at the blacksmith's forge. The kid just lives for the rush of building things with his own two hands. And he's dead set on taking William under his wing to push his skills to the absolute limit. He turns to the tennis player sitting right beside him and asks, "So, Eri Tachibana, what's your take on all this?" Eri fires back that William himself forged her signature weapon, and in her eyes, nothing else even compares. But his current whereabouts? That's the ultimate mystery. Fried cuts the small talk and gets straight to business, revealing that William had actually swung by to say his final goodbyes before disappearing. Aver asks what the next move is, and William reveals he's got a massive favor to ask the Minister of Foreign Affairs regarding the Kingdom of Murkies. Saxon asks if Gory knows where he's hiding out, and Aver confirms he's got the location locked down. He tasked his daughter, Limit, with the ultimate mission to protect William at all costs, and since he was stuck behind, she set off on a massive journey alone. She's officially all grown up now. It's finally time for her to head out on her own big adventure. Fried keeps going, his voice thick with raw emotion. Eri's entire vibe shifted as she fell into deep thought, while Tennis reeled from the realization that the man had actually traded away his own daughter, leaving Saxon to burn a hole through Fried with a look of pure, icy disappointment. Eri's jaw drops as she realizes the truth. They've completely outmaneuvered her. Saxon fumbles his words, blurting out that he just remembered some urgent business he needs to handle right now. He begs for forgiveness and bails on the meeting, while Tennis realizes he completely spaced on handing the mission to his granddaughter. Man, getting old is a total nightmare. He wraps things up and vanishes, and with Eri admitting she's also out of time, the whole squad finally clears out of the palace together. Fried's left all alone at the table, leaning his head on his hand with his eyes shut tight, knowing deep down that everyone is thinking the exact same thing. Meanwhile, back at the hut, Limit is casually sipping some tea when she turns to William and asks, "So, what exactly happened?" As he's busy whipping up dinner, he checks a spice jar and tells the group they've got to restock immediately because he's tired of the same old flavors and wants to level up their meals. William's calling for a shopping spree today, so they're making a quick dash over to the port town of Bart. Limit speaks up, asking if they're really going to hitch a ride in her carriage. She adds that once they reach Bergen, they can just find someone to keep an eye on her. Suddenly, a sharp squeak cuts through the air as Rudy whips around to face them. Right before their eyes, Rudy starts ballooning up, squealing with pure, unadulterated joy. William reveals that Rudy can grow to a massive size, big enough to carry people on his back, and Limit is totally charmed, calling him a lovely bird while giving him a satisfied pat on the head. The whole squad piles onto Rudy's back and blasts off, and it's only a hot minute before William starts screaming, "Yo, look, I can see it already!" Finally, the jagged coastline and the port town of Barth broke through the horizon. After sticking the landing, the whole gang is in high spirits as they march into a cozy port town where fishing boats line the docks right alongside the humble, one-story houses. Once they hit the shore, the gang heads straight for the city market and realizes the whole place is absolutely buzzing with energy. Suddenly, a voice creeps up behind William, asking him exactly how old he is, and our hero whips around to face the mysterious stranger. Right in front of him stands a middle-aged man with a massive brown beard who introduces himself as Mayor Markham, and he immediately turns to William to ask if this girl is his fiancée. Markham suddenly cuts William off, and our MC tells him to quit playing around since he's literally escorting the daughter of the powerful Avert family. Aver practically jumps out of his skin, begging Markham to forgive his earlier rudeness, before leaning in close to whisper the real question. How on earth did William get mixed up with her? But Markham just shrugs it off, telling him it's a long story. William's jaw drops at the insane energy of the market, but Markham reveals the secret behind the boom. They just struck a massive vein of magic ore right outside the city. The crowds are surging and businesses are absolutely booming, making William wonder if it's finally time to open his own shop. But he's got to check with Markham first. That curveball of a question stops him dead in his tracks, forcing his brain into total overdrive. Limit's eyes instantly spark with pure excitement as she hears the plan. "William, that's genius! Let's start our own business!" she screams at the top of her lungs. But William stays ice cold and shuts her down without a second thought. As he heads out, Markham tells William to chew on the offer, absolutely certain it'll succeed because he's got the power to make it happen. William's racking his brain for a massive hit, desperately trying to figure out what the locals are dying to buy as he shuts his eyes tight, straining for that one genius idea. Then it hits him. He's actually here for groceries, so the whole squad starts roaming through the city market together. Now they're hauling back a massive haul of goodies, and while Limit's amazed at the mountain of veggies they scored, William's already planning to plow the land back home and start their very own garden. Limit is absolutely beaming, but the MC gives a quick reality check. Farming is dangerous for a rookie, so he decides to just let his broken abilities do all the work. "Welcome, young travelers," chirps an old lady in a headscarf, greeting them from behind her fish stall. William takes one look at the counter, and his mouth starts watering, because that fish looks absolutely divine. The fishmonger asks what kind of stock it'll brew, and the second William hears the word broth, he's already sold on how delicious it's gonna be. If he can just track down some soy sauce, he'll be serving up fresh sashimi and sea muses in a heartbeat. Too bad the locals here think eating raw fish is a one-way ticket to the afterlife. But he's not letting that stop his culinary gears from turning. And soy sauce isn't the only game changer on his mind. We're talking about the legendary miso. If he can get a soybean field growing, he'll have everything he needs to brew that savory liquid gold. His mind is absolutely racing as he maps out the ultimate food revolution. Lost in a deep longing for his grandma's cooking, William suddenly snaps Agnes out of her trance by demanding to know what happened. He snaps back to reality and plays it cool. But honestly, ever since those past life memories returned, he's been totally obsessed with Japanese food. Leaving the market behind, the gang spots a massive schooner hauling in its fresh catch. And as they head over to investigate, a local fisherman steps up to meet them. William's rummaging through the boxes of fish when something catches his eye, making him let out a massive scream of pure shock. "Wait, is that a freaking Kraken?" he shouts in total shock, but the fisherman just casually shrugs, telling him these waters are crawling with the little ones. He explains that once winter hits, they migrate to the frigid northern seas to grow into absolute behemoths. Wait, do people actually eat this stuff? I just had to ask the guy. The answer? A hard no way. I mean, who in their right mind would look at this nightmare and think, dinner? Apparently these freaks just won't stop getting tangled in the nets. Or at least, that's what the fisherman tells me. He explains that the Krakens devour the catch right inside the nets, leaving them with no choice but to grind the scraps into fish food. William shakes his head, thinking about what an absolute waste this whole situation turned out to be. He mulls it over for a second before finally asking to take it, and the fisherman shrugs. "It's yours if you need it. But what on earth are you planning to do with that?" William snatches up the Kraken, a confident grin plastered across his face. Just then, a massive catamaran screeches as it grinds right up onto the shore. Cheers explode across the shoreline as the crowd goes wild. Mr. Saxon is finally back. Saxon's finally back, and he struts off that ship looking like he absolutely owns the place. The moment she's back, she practically tackles him with a massive hug, while Saxon jokingly asks if Sanal actually stayed out of trouble while he was gone. A tall young man steps up to greet Saxon with a warm, "Welcome back, father," and Saxon returns the nod, thanking Ganel for holding down the fort while he was away. Sonal and Ganel lean in, desperate to know if they're finally going to see William in the flesh. Fresh off his trip to Habart, William is already back at the hut tinkering with gears and dreaming of windmills, while a totally confused Limit watches him dive right into his next project without even taking a breather. Just as our MC is about to spill the beans, the sound of rapid footsteps cuts him off, leaving a push to the limit William wondering who on earth is crashing the party. Suddenly, a petite brunette girl bursts into the room and tackles William with a massive hug, shouting, "William Sonal!" as he instantly recognizes her and pulls her in close. Out of nowhere, a tall, dark-haired guy steps up to greet William. "Ganel? What the heck are you doing here?" Without wasting a single second, our hero charges straight toward him. Limit's face does a total 180, and she's making zero effort to hide how incredibly miserable she is. "Limit, what's with the vibe? What happened?" William asks, sensing the sudden tension. As the eagle owl swoops down from the sky, Sonal looks up and shouts, "Rudy! Long time no see!" William rounds up every single guest in the house, calling for their absolute attention. He introduces Sonal, a traveler from the distant Jade Island, along with her older brother Ganel. The crowd immediately welcomes them back, filling the room with a chorus of friendly greetings. Sonal explains that her dad just got back from his journey and gave her a direct order to support William. That's the only reason she's standing here right now. Ganal then chimes in, declaring that he's also desperate to be useful to Lord William. But William just stares back, completely baffled, and asks what they even mean by that. Limit drops a massive bombshell by revealing Kirishima is the true leader of the Saxons, leaving William stunned and demanding to know how she even knows about them. Limit drops a massive bombshell. Her father actually tracked down every single one of William's old clients, and yeah, that includes Saxon. The whole crew gathered at the Aver estate, and you just know William was the only thing on their minds. She could tell right away, every single one of them was itching to help him out. He's desperately racking his brain, searching for any possible way to save William. Sonal says the moment his dad heard William was starting work, he commanded the brothers to go back him up, and he even put in a massive order with the gondolads. William's gears were turning as he carefully weighed his next move. Limit warns that his dad probably blabbed to other clients, so they better get ready for even more uninvited guests to crash the party. The light bulb finally flickers on as William starts to piece the truth together. It's a massive ego boost knowing that even after walking away from the Barnett Guild, people are still desperate for his help. But honestly, he totally gets why they can't survive without him. He's starting to realize his second life isn't going to be the quiet, peaceful crafting retreat he planned for. Looking at the rowdy group packed into his hut, he knows one thing for sure. His days are about to get a whole lot louder. Gantel suddenly bursts onto the scene, demanding to know exactly what William just cooked up. Our MC grins, telling him he's right on time before asking for some backup, and Ganel is more than ready to jump into the action. Limit and Sonal are glued to the window, and when a curious Ganel asks what's up, William just lets out a laugh and tells him it's a total secret for now. Sonal claims his brother is a total zero, but the guy is obsessed with tinkering and has been soaking up every trick William has to offer. Ganel and William step right up to the massive gear mechanism to see what they're dealing with. Ganel leans in to inspect the surface and his jaw absolutely hits the floor. He realizes this is the exact same advanced processing William just finished teaching him. Bingo, William says with a smirk. Our MC confirms that his student hasn't forgotten a single thing. They haul the lumber and start crafting like absolute madmen. Just as things are finally wrapping up, William is caught totally off guard when Agnes walks over and announces she's heading deep into the forest to scavenge for food. William is spiraling, terrified that she isn't going to make it out of this alive. She just gives him a look, telling him to stop stressing and trust her for once. Ganel immediately barks at Sonal to get moving and give Agnes some much-needed backup. Sonal doesn't hesitate for a heartbeat, giving a sharp nod as he prepares for battle. They're strictly warned to stay near the edge and never venture too deep into the heart of the forest. He's itching to grill William, but he's way too terrified to actually speak up. William's worried sick about the danger, but Agnes insists on bringing Limit along, swearing she'll keep him safe with Sonal by his side. So the trio ventures deep into the forest, ready to track down their prey. Deep in the thicket, Agnes locks onto her target, draws her bow back with total confidence, and lets that arrow fly. Sonal is absolutely floored by Agnes's god-tier aim, and with the coast clear, Agnes heads out to bag their hard-earned loot. Limit peers into the pitch-black forest, where two eerie lights suddenly cut through the shadows like the eyes of a predator. Out of the shadows steps a battle-hardened wild boar, brandishing a pair of absolutely massive tusks. Agnes screams her absolute heart out, her voice echoing with pure desperation. The beast locks eyes with the stranger and snaps into kill mode, lunging forward with lethal intent. Suddenly, the woman just loses it and screams right in Agnes's face. But Sonal isn't done yet. She charges in, intercepts the beast mid-flight, and delivers a savage kick that sends it bouncing right back. Pushed to her absolute breaking point, she barely manages to choke out a terrified, "Yes, thank you," her voice trembling and slurring with every word. Suddenly, Agnes bolts right over to them. Meanwhile, back at the hut, William and Ganel are deep in conversation, and William is actually pretty shocked that Saxon sent 2 assistants instead of 1, especially since Ganel could have handled the job solo. But Ganel reveals that Sonal was actually dying to meet him herself. William's jaw hits the floor the moment he hears this bombshell, and the action keeps rolling, because Jade Island is packed with legendary minerals that everyone is desperate to get their hands on. But the second William set foot on that island, he didn't give a single thought to the fortune hidden in those minerals. Instead, he started crafting all kinds of insane gear, using nothing but the glowing shells he found on the beach. He started handing out advanced tools and sharing his secrets, single-handedly upgrading everyone's way of life. Ganel admits that William is a total pro at winning people over, and Sonal caught on so fast she was the first one to approach him, keeping her intentions 100% real from the jump. Ganel keeps the hype train rolling, pointing out her killer instincts, Sonal's insane intuition, and William, who's not just dedicated, but straight up obsessed with his work. Seeing his daughter finally lower her guard, even the skeptical father starts putting his faith in William, and honestly, William's reaction to the whole thing is totally fair. Gandalf starts losing his cool, shouting at the top of his lungs that he's here to help and can handle whatever they throw at him. With his mind made up, the general bolted forward to back up William. William catches those familiar whispers echoing in his head and realizes with a chill that they've finally returned. They whip around to find the girls returning with some legendary trophies. Limit is absolutely beaming, a massive grin plastered across his face. Sonal is charging forward, effortlessly hauling a monstrous wild boar carcass over her shoulder. And right beside them, Agnes is just strolling along, looking completely unfazed. Fast forward to the city market, where Ganel and Agnes are shouting for business and drawing a massive stunned crowd as they pull off some serious trades. Back at the estate, Limit stares at the spinning windmill, absolutely blown away by how they managed to finish the massive build in record time. William teamed up with Ganel to build a specialized dryer, finally kicking their production of dried crackers into high gear. Once the job is finished, William gives Ganel a huge shout-out, admitting he never could have pulled this off on his own. Ganel returns the favor, stoked because he actually learned a ton about crafting gears during the process. But our MC is already plotting an upgrade, thinking they need to add bearings to the rotating parts for maximum efficiency. Ganel's totally confused, asking, "Wait, what the heck are bearings?" William breaks it down, explaining their specialized parts using tiny balls to make everything spin smooth as silk. Down at the market, an old-timer is losing his mind over the dried Kraken. But Sonal just shrugs and starts tearing into the monster's carcass to prove it's actually a delicacy. Limit serves up a plate featuring a dried Kraken paw, offering the customer a generous helping of the bizarre snack. He rips the paw off and starts devouring it, marveling at how the flavor only gets richer and more intense with every single chew. The tasting kicks off a total feeding frenzy, with buyers swarming in and shouting, "Give me one, give me two," as they scramble to get a bite of the new product. "Whoa, William, talk about a full house," a voice calls out from behind. And as William whips around, he finds himself staring right at Markham. He keeps raving about it, totally blown away that anyone could turn basic dried crackling into such an absolute masterpiece of a snack. William's mind flashes back to years ago, realizing he's seen this exact same madness go down in a port city before. Our MC explains to the mayor that the secret is spin-drying the Kraken before giving it a long fry for peak flavor, though William's secretly wishing he had some soy sauce to really make it pop. The mayor presses him again, demanding to know if it's really Alfie, but William just shuts him down, insisting it doesn't even matter anymore. The market was absolutely buzzing, with deals flying left and right all day long. As the sun begins to set, a refreshing sea breeze sweeps over the coast while William wanders the shoreline with Rudy perched on his shoulder, thinking to himself that the atmosphere here is always absolute perfection. He gazes out across the endless blue, soaking in every bit of that breathtaking view. He spots a distant forest on the horizon and realizes the capital must be hiding right behind it. So he decides to dive straight through the trees to take the ultimate shortcut. And just like that, the dried Kraken was completely wiped out, leaving the fair stalls totally picked clean. The entire squad finally lets out a massive breath of relief after surviving that absolute marathon of a day. Limit asks if this scheme will actually make them rich, but William drops a bombshell. He's not even planning to sell the product itself. "You're looking to sell the actual dryer, and Limit is completely caught off guard by that answer." William stands before the whole squad and makes it clear. Sure, selling dried fish is a goldmine, but he's not just after the cash. He wants the entire city to start using these dryers to launch their own businesses. He realizes that if word spreads and tourists start swarming the place, they'll become a local legend, allowing them to export dryers to every city and finally give the townspeople the better life they deserve. Hearing those words, Limit, Agnes, and Ganel are left staring at William with pure, wide-eyed respect. A screen flickers to life, and standing right there is none other than William. He spins around to see Sonal, gives her the green light to eat it raw, and she wastes no time lunging at the Kraken to start devouring its flesh. The whole crowd is staring at Sonal in absolute shock, their minds completely blown by what he's pulling off. She's straight up trying to scarf down a raw Kraken. Limit starts panicking and screams for her to stop. Unless she wants her stomach to be in absolute knots, she needs to drop it. Ganel begs her to quit treating everything like a snack and asks where the heck she even found that thing. Sonal just shrugs and says some fisherman uncle handed it over to her. A moment later, the ground suddenly ruptures with a deafening crack, tearing a massive hole right through the field. William watches Limit, Agnes, Gano, and Sonal busting their tails and thanks the whole crew for doing a killer job prepping that field. Sonal gets to work planting her seeds, her mind already racing as she wonders just how fast they'll sprout into a delicious feast. William shuts that down fast, telling Sonal that growing food isn't some instant crafting cheat. It takes real time, and the rules of this world are a whole different beast. You've got to watch those plants like a hawk as they sprout, making sure to pump them full of nutrients to keep them growing strong. Sonal starts making a massive scene, screaming at Claire that she's absolutely starving. Right then, one of the mages bellows at the top of his lungs, "William Guests!" Our MC is grinning from ear to ear because he's finally meeting the big shot himself, Mayor Markham from Hubbard. They head inside to settle down for some tea, and the mayor mentions he was only away on business for a moment. But now the entire town of Hubbard is buzzing about William's invention, with those pinwheel dryers spinning on every single corner. William reveals that the fresh wave of orders is already piling up. Seriously, the mountain of work ahead of them is looking absolutely massive. Seeing the chaos, the mayor pipes up to ask what's going on. He vents that reaching this spot is a total nightmare, a literal torture session that forces you to trek around the entire massive forest. William speaks up and confirms the truth. It's not a myth, it's real. The mayor kicks back with his tea, soaking in all the praise with a satisfied smirk. William gets totally fired up, his eyes gleaming with ambition as he asks, "What if we built a direct road straight from Hubbard to the capital?" The mayor's eyes bugged out in absolute shock. William keeps the momentum rolling. This move is going to make shuttling potential clients around a total breeze. But there's a catch. He's still got to get the green light from Minister Gory first. Markham's totally on board, calling it a genius move that'll have the whole city celebrating in the streets. With spirits high, they wrap up the chat and finally head their separate ways. William flags Rudy down, shamelessly asking for yet another favor. Rudy's finally geared up and ready to dive headfirst into his next massive quest. The whole crew is locked, loaded, and buckled in for the long flight ahead. They're soaring straight toward the heart of the action. The capital. Soaring high into the sky, William scans the horizon and spots Hubbard off to the left, realizing the royal capital must be sitting right on the other side. As they soar in closer, William just smirks, knowing this is exactly what he predicted. Fast forward a few days, and the entire crew finally rolls into the heart of the kingdom's capital. Ganil and Sonal make their way through the bustling streets, but Sonal is absolutely floored by the sheer scale of the place. She's staring at everything in total awe, completely overwhelmed by how much life and energy is packed into the city. Ganil has to snap her out of it, though, telling her to quit gawking and keep up before she gets left behind. They pull up to a city lamppost, and Ganil's already questioning if these things are actually powered by magic glowing stones. While William and Limit creep up right behind them, Sonal and Gandil are just laughing and vibing, totally oblivious to the danger. Limit wonders why they're even at the capital, but William explains they've got a report to file and a huge favor to ask Minister Gory. William reveals that a warning letter was already sent to the minister, putting him on notice that today is the day it all goes down. MC watches his buddies lead the way, noting that since Sonal and Ganil have never set foot in the capital, this trip is going to be a massive eye-opener for them. Stepping into the reception room, they're greeted by Juris, a sharp, stylish assistant in a killer business suit who looks just as smart as she is beautiful. She beams at William, thrilled to see him again after all this time, and as Minister Gory's right hand, she's definitely more than just a pretty face. She plays the perfect host to the crowd, letting everyone know the minister is just about ready to make his entrance. Moments later, the group steps right into the minister's private office. He greets them from his desk, monocle fixed in his eye, while immediately apologizing for the long wait. William brushes it off instantly, telling him there's absolutely no need for apologies. He's just genuinely hyped to be crossing paths with the man once more. Peering through his monocle, the minister eyes the group and demands to know who exactly is standing before him. Limit immediately drops into a respectful bow, greeting the man and telling him what an absolute honor it is to meet. Representing House Verge, she introduces herself as Limit, and mentions how relieved her family is to see the minister in such peak health. William steps up to introduce himself alongside Sonal and Ganil, proudly repping the Emerald Isle as they all make their presence known. The Minister of Specifies breaks the news to the Saxon chieftain's heirs that intercepted letters show Mr. Freed is getting through to William and the guy is finally starting to show some real fire. The minister cackles, realizing a whole wave of them is closing in, and William joins right in on the sinister laughter. All right, guys. Today we're jumping right back into it as the minister finally gets back to his ruthless business. William's practically vibrating with hype as he thrusts a rolled-up scroll forward in his right hand. He's asking for the green light to build a road, but the minister repeats the word back with a heavy tone that screams, there's a massive secret behind it. William slams a map onto the table and tells the minister that since his gear is a total hit in Hubbard, he needs to pave a direct road to his workshop to handle the massive flood of new customers. He rolls out the map to show off his massive construction project, comparing the old, dusty paths to his vision for the future. And William isn't slowing down, because his next big move is a straight shot toward the capital. The minister is absolutely hyped, realizing this plan is a total game-changer. William lays it out for the minister. Right now, the only way to haul magic ore from Hubbard to the Melky's kingdom is a slow trip by sea, but opening a land route would make their trade profits absolutely skyrocket. So, is he ready to cash in? Minister Juris, sitting right there in the meeting, chimes in that this move would be a massive win for their entire country. The minister shuts him down, reminding William that they've already been through this. Clearing out that massive forest is a total nightmare for their budget and their schedule. The minister locks eyes with William, refusing to break his gaze as he keeps pressing his point. He makes it crystal clear. The higher-ups want William, and only William, to handle this mission. He's basically asking the million-dollar question: can the government actually trust him to deliver? The minister is fishing for a reaction, desperate to see if William is the real deal. Meanwhile, Eurus is lurking right behind the minister, wearing a smile that's definitely hiding a dark secret. William waits for the minister to wrap up his grand speech before stepping forward with total confidence, declaring that he's the man for the job. The minister is absolutely sold on the deal, giving William the green light and admitting he's the only one he truly trusts to get the job done. Gory just flashes a smirk, realizing his home is about to become the ultimate crossroads for everyone passing through. The minister's vibe shifts instantly as he raises a finger and drops a bombshell. He wants William to build an entire village from scratch, leaving our MC absolutely stunned. Once Gory finally chills out, he drops a game-changing idea. Build a massive hotel, use magic to craft rare loot, and start a full-blown trading empire. Totally blindsided by the sudden proposal, William can barely choke out a yes through his stutters. Eurus leans in to deliver the final word, but the clock brutally cuts their meeting short, leaving the minister to just nod in silent agreement. Gory springs up to apologize, but William is already drowning in business and tells her not to sweat the small stuff before he heads out. William gives the nod, and just like that, he's officially all in. The squad finally makes it back to their home base, and William is left absolutely floored. All he wanted was the green light to pave a simple road, but instead, he's handed a deal to build an entire village from the ground up. William realizes the scale of this mess has absolutely exploded, but he's totally hooked as he rewinds his mind to see how it all went down. Meanwhile, back at the trading house, Barnett is absolutely losing his mind, slamming his fist onto the table and screaming, "What is this? Is the House of Verge seriously poaching my clients just to help Williams?" Laston storms into the office and drops a bombshell. Even the Kingdom of Murkies is slashing their orders, and Barnett is absolutely losing it. Last time in Begins, the Trade Guild and the Murkies Military Bureau had an ironclad deal on shipping rights, but now some power-hungry snakes are trying to sabotage the contract and rewrite the rules for themselves. Barnett just scoffs at the report, mocking how that former foreign minister, Murkies, turned out to be a total waste of space who got instantly tossed aside by Gory despite all the bribes he'd been fed. Wait a second. Barnett stops dead in his tracks, wondering if Williams is actually secretly linked to Gary. Laston's expression shifts, but he keeps pushing, dropping the bombshell that Minister Gory is the heavy hitter leading the charge to rewrite the treaty, and the real kicker: William is dead set on burning their company to the ground. Last points out that Minister Gowery's name is right there on William's client list and starts frantically scanning the records for more secrets. Mr. Barnett loses his cool and bellows a furious "damn you" at the top of his lungs. Massive thunderstorms are erupting across the entire horizon. This relentless downpour has been hammering the world for days on end. William and Limit are practically glued to the window, watching the sky turn absolutely chaotic. William stares at the relentless downpour, wondering when the sky is finally going to give him a break. Right then, his eyes widen as he catches sight of the very first tiny sprout finally poking through the Siyun field. Insanil ignores the freezing downpour and sprints straight into the field, her heart racing with pure, unbridled joy. She rushes over and lovingly shields that fragile little sprout from the storm with her umbrella. Later on, Limit and William are still glued to the window, staring at this natural miracle with pure, wide-eyed wonder. For days now, a relentless downpour has been hammering the Eurydian Valley without a single moment of rest. And now, the rivers are finally hitting their breaking point, surging over the banks and swallowing the land. The villagers poured every ounce of sweat into fortifying those dams, but even their best defenses were starting to buckle. The crushing weight of the water is finally starting to cave them in. The chaos kicks off as the bridges start blowing sky high. It's finally time to tear through the forest and carve out a massive road from Hubbard to the capital, and William's crew is jumping straight into the action. After grinding away for a bit, our guy wipes his brow and realizes this forest is a total nightmare to navigate. No wonder the kingdom never touched it. But he's got a wild idea he's ready to put to the test. William unleashes his sacred staff, Ristake, and jaws hit the floor as everyone watches the spectacle in pure disbelief. Limit rushes to see if he's okay, but Agnes just laughs it off, teasingly asking if he's still got that witchcraft mojo. William doesn't crack a smile as he drops a bombshell. He's actually got a contract with that staff, and he's ready to put it to work. The second Williams hits the forest, he slams his staff into the dirt and commands the wind to blast a path straight through the trees. His whole crew is watching from behind with their eyes glued to the action, just as a massive vortex suddenly rips through the air. As the dust settles, William and the rest of the crew can only stare in dead silence, their spirits completely crushed by the sight before them. Let that voice drown out the noise as it forces you to stay locked in on the grind. Reality finally hits William. He's never cast a single spell in his life, and he's starting to realize that crafting gear is a far cry from launching massive fireballs. Turns out this thing is nothing but a pathetic toy now, and he finally sees it for what it really is. You're itching for the day you can finally master some real-deal legendary magic. William flashes back through every insane moment that led him here, realizing he's finally got a real shot at this new life just as the sudden thunder of approaching hooves breaks his focus. Suddenly, a short-haired blonde rider swoops down on our MC and demands she recognize him as the legendary craftsman William before proudly confirming that he's the man himself. Norman from the Knightly Order of Melkis is absolutely hyped to introduce himself, but the vibe shifts instantly when an emergency request comes in. William's been drafted for the massive task of restoring the Oredian Bridge. Norman breaks it down. The massive rain sent the river surging over its banks, leaving the Oredian Bridge a wrecked, impassable mess. Norman gets ushered into the hut to finally talk things out. They settle in at the table and start sipping tea as the tension builds. Norman lays it all out, explaining that this bridge is a vital artery linking the capital to the next state over. Yeah, there are other routes, but they force you into a massive, grueling detour through the mountain peaks. Plus, those back roads are so tight and jagged that taking a carriage through them is pure, unadulterated torture. William listens in, and his heart sinks as he remembers that the road ahead is a total nightmare. Norman keeps the intel flowing, revealing that Minister Gory personally demanded those bridge repairs and is now practically begging William to step up for the kingdom. Everything finally clicks for our hero, and he bolts out the door before anyone can even blink. They reach out to Rudy for backup, and just like always, he's already geared up and ready to hit the road. William announces he's heading out, and he's not going alone. Ganel and Sonor are rolling out right behind him. He's fired up and ready to forge everything he needs right there on the spot. But Ganel stops him, insisting he pack some extra materials before hitting the road. Sonal is absolutely stoked for their next trip. But Limit shuts her down instantly, snapping that this is a high-stakes mission, not some playground for her to mess around in. With their final goodbyes behind them, our trio officially hit the road to begin their massive adventure. Limit watches Rudy fly off with a heavy heart, only for Agnes to step up and remind her that this time, she's completely powerless to help. Agnes doubles down, arguing that those victims are way beyond saving at this point. Instead, she suggests they team up and hold down the fort while William is out of the picture. Limit keeps his eyes glued to the clouds, watching as Rudy's silhouette finally vanishes into the horizon. William and his squad finally touch down in the Oredian Valley, where they're met by Juris, who explains she's filling in for Minister Gory to personally scout the disaster zones. William gives her a warm welcome, but Sanal is the one who's absolutely losing it with joy, just to see her there. Juris drops a bombshell as they watch the bridge get absolutely shredded by the raging river. It's a total disaster, and she reveals the flood didn't stop there. It tore right through the nearby village too, leaving everyone praying the rescue team from the capital makes it in time. Suddenly, a voice calls out behind him, and as William spins around, he's face to face with a gray-bearded old-timer who says it's been way too long, and just like that, Mr. Bird recognizes William. Mr. Burr steps up and starts laying out the whole situation. He explains that Minister Gary ordered William to rebuild the bridge and bring in some serious reinforcements. So, he rounded up a crew of expert craftsmen and hauled tail straight to the construction site. Once William hears the plan, he's stoked, shouting that having these guys around is going to make the job a total breeze. William introduces Mr. Bird to Ganel and Sonal as a master carpenter leading an elite squad of craftsmen he's been indebted to for years, and Bird immediately steps up, asking how they can help because his crew is ready to go all out. William struts over to the Bird crew and greets the gang, sparks of pure joy flying as they finally reunite. One worker admits he was spiraling after hearing a rumor that William had abandoned the guild barn, fearing their days of working together were dead and buried. Another teammate chimes in, relieved that the dream team is officially back in the game. A third guy laughs, saying that every day with William is such a wild ride that today feels like a total celebration. "I'm itching to get this started," shouts the next guy, absolutely hyped for the mission ahead. Scanning the wreckage, Bird reveals they've already hauled away almost every scrap of debris, and William is genuinely shocked at just how fast these guys move. High up on the bridge support, the foreman grabs his phone and puts a call straight through to Mr. Bird. He shouts for them to come see his big discovery, so William and Bird go sprinting toward him to find out what's going on. They race over to the support, but Mr. Bird freezes when he spots smashed stones and clear signs of sabotage. Someone was definitely trying to bring this bridge down. Confused? Don't worry, William breaks it down. But then Bird drops the real shocker. That bridge didn't just fall, it was sabotaged on purpose. Juris takes in the news and realizes this isn't just a random attack. That bridge is a massive trade artery, meaning these villains are actually extremists trying to sabotage the new treaty. William's lurking right there, his mind racing as he struggles to make sense of this mysterious pact and the true identity of his enemies. Juris drops the truth. Minister Gory is already moving behind the scenes to rewrite their entire agreement. She breaks down the dirty details of a deal signed by Murky's former foreign minister, exposing a secret clause that traps the entire kingdom into buying all their weapons and supplies from just one single company. This contract basically puts the kingdom of Murky's in a total chokehold, completely cutting them off from trading with the rest of the world. William's voice wavers as he nervously asks if they're really talking about the Barnett Guild. Juris rubs the back of his neck and awkwardly admits that it was actually Barnett. William saw right through Barnett's mask, knowing the man was cold enough to pull any dirty trick imaginable just to keep bleeding the kingdom's treasury dry. Juris is in total disbelief, questioning if this massive bridge is actually their handiwork. She's got zero proof, but she's betting everything that she's right. Bird whips around to William, insisting they start rebuilding that bridge right this second, and William doesn't hesitate for even a moment to agree. His crafting skill is basically a triple threat that lets him buff stats, forge gear from scratch, or mend broken items, and William decides it's time to put that repair ability to work. But looking at the absolute wreckage, he realizes that rebuilding this bridge is a massive project that's going to be a total nightmare. It's going to suck his mana dry and take an absolute eternity, but they team up and jump straight into the restoration. A little while later, the entire restoration crew takes one look at the finished repairs, and they're absolutely blown away by the quality. William finally drops the big news. The Eurydian bridge is officially back in one piece, but to make sure it stays that way, he's dragging everyone upstream tomorrow to build a massive mudflow dam. The entire construction crew is left staring at him in total shock, having absolutely no clue what he's talking about. An anti-mudflow dam? Yeah, they've never heard of that one before. Sunrise hits and the crew starts their grueling trek further upstream. Our MC explains that a mudflow dam is basically a massive shield, catching logs and boulders before the rain turns them into deadly projectiles. Without it, this whole area would just be a never-ending cycle of devastating floods. Juris chimes in, announcing that they're finally closing in on the river's headwaters. While traveling, Sonal and Ganal suddenly catch a suspicious scent in the air, and Sonal screams that they're being followed, leaving William frantically wondering what's going on. They keep pushing forward, but Ganon senses eyes on them from the shadows, though whoever it was has already bolted. Jura suspects these are the saboteurs out to demolish the bridge, just as Bird, who's scouting ahead, shouts for William to come see the madness for himself. Approaching the riverbank, our lead finds a wreckage of smashed logs and frayed ropes, realizing that a makeshift retaining wall had already been built and destroyed right here. Liam's jaw hits the floor, stunned that such high-tech secrets have been handed down like family heirlooms in a place like this. He hunches over and snatches that rope right off the ground. William takes a closer look at the rope and realizes the truth. It didn't just snap, it was sliced clean through. William's convinced this wasn't an accident. Someone sabotaged that wall to blow the dam wide open, and as Juris takes it all in, he's left completely shaken by the horror of it all. MC is dead set on reinforcing the new structure, knowing he can't let another disaster tear through that mountain village ever again. He barks at the group to stop slacking and start hauling every piece of stone and timber they can find. Just then, heavy footsteps crunch on the ridge and a voice thunders down from above, shouting for them to stop. A rowdy mob of guys in mismatched gear is suddenly swarming William's crew, screaming at them for daring to step foot on their turf. Juris immediately pegs them as bandits, while William demands to know if they're the ones who've been stalking them. A hooded thug screams that they've trespassed on their territory, and the guy with the mohawk bellows, asking if they're the ones who destroyed the bridge. When they press the hooded guy about the surveillance, he just plays dumb, acting like he's got absolutely no clue what they're talking about. The bandits roar in perfect sync, making it clear that trespassing on their turf was a fatal mistake. So if you value your life, you better hand over every single thing you own right now. With those words, they charge forward, ready to absolutely wreck William and his crew. Out of nowhere, Sonal lunges forward and clocks the first thug, sending him crashing to the floor. The rest of the crew just stands there, completely blindsided by the sudden counterattack. Mr. Bird lets out a piercing cry, commanding his masters to charge straight into the heat of battle. The talk is over as they dive headfirst into a brutal slugfest. Sonal and Ganal didn't waste a single heartbeat, charging headfirst into the thick of the fight. William sizes up the beer team's builders and is completely blown away by their raw power. He never expected them to be this insanely strong. The brutal slugfest just keeps escalating as they trade blow for blow. That bald thug suddenly lunges forward, snatching Juris by the throat and pinning a jagged blade right against her neck. Terrified, she tries to scream out William's name, praying he can hear her over the chaos. But the bandit just sneers, growling at her to shut her mouth and stay perfectly still if she wants to keep her head. William C. loses his mind when his jurist is taken hostage, letting out a desperate scream as he realizes he's got absolutely no plan to save him. Sona and Gano are way off in the distance, locked in their own desperate duels, and one look around reveals that the entire battlefield has exploded into pure chaos, meaning absolutely no one is coming to save him. William hits a wall when he realizes his skills are completely useless in combat, leaving him frantically scrambling for a backup plan. Just then, a massive racket breaks out as a spear-wielding girl storms onto the battlefield and dives straight into the heat of the fight. She barks at the robber, demanding he let Juris go right this second, and she absolutely trashes him, calling him a pathetic, low-life scumbag. William's watching the whole scene unfold with total curiosity when suddenly, it clicks. He actually knows that girl. The robber snaps his focus to the fighter girl, snarls, "What do you want?" and lunges straight into the fray. She dances around the strike and drives her spear home, sending the bandit face-planting into the dirt. Sonal and Ganel catch the action and are absolutely hyped to see her come out on top. Meanwhile, Bird and the brigade are starting to sweat, clearly worried about what's coming next. She sprints over to Juris, desperate to see if she's okay, and Juris finally breathes a sigh of relief, thanking her for the rescue. William sprints right into the thick of it, screaming the keynote at the top of his lungs. Juris is completely blindsided, demanding to know how this total stranger even knows William. After dusting herself off from the brutal scrap, this stunning brunette begs for forgiveness and reveals she's actually Kino Tachibana from Moonlight. One of the masters racks his brain before it finally clicks. Moonlight is that legendary powerhouse team everyone's been hyping up, and another master jumps in to confirm it. Akino drops the ultimate bombshell, revealing that she's actually the daughter of their leader, Ari Tachibana. So that's the secret. No wonder their power is totally off the charts. Birdie and the adorable Sonal scream in pure disbelief. Caught completely off guard, William demanded to know how in the world she'd even managed to find this place. Something's clearly wrong with Snow Peak, and just so we're clear, he's talking about his spear. Akeno eyes the saber, gives it a slick spin, and smirks that this little guy still packs a deadly edge. She explains that as soon as her mom told her William was in trouble, she didn't waste a heartbeat rushing to his side. William wonders just heard the Aver family is hunting his clients. But did they seriously manage to snag the Moonlight group right from under him? She knows that the moment she kicked off her journey, her very first move was swinging by his brand new place. She tracked down the Verge's daughter to get the full scoop before making a dead sprint for the Oridian Bridge. She finally tracked them down, but seeing those bandits up to no good, she ducked into the shadows and waited for the perfect opening to strike. The pieces finally fall into place for William, while Ganel, lurking nearby, chimes in that the scent was definitely coming from her. Akino is absolutely livid, snapping back that she's only drenched in sweat because she sprinted like her life depended on it. William tries to smooth things over, insisting that everyone is totally misreading the vibe. He explains that Sonal just has an insanely sharp nose, and that's really all there is to it. At the end of the day, the whole mess actually ends up working out perfectly. And right on cue, Sonal himself steps in to join the conversation. Bird gestures toward the hog-tied bandits and asks what the plan is, while the thugs start screaming for their immediate release. Juris suddenly bursts in, red-faced and panicked, thinking she can just tag along for a friendly trip to the capital before hitting them with a massive interrogation. The whole squad is gathered right there on the riverbank. As the water crashes against the shore, William's mind is racing with his next big plan. He's itching to get that dam built as fast as humanly possible. But before he can lift a finger, he's got to deal with their guests first. Since the Oridian Bridge is finally patched up, they decide to call it a day and save the heavy lifting for tomorrow. William's eyes widen as he spots her looming over the tied-up thug she just flattened, shaking him awake and barking at him to get back on his feet. The robber finally snaps back to reality, but he's completely clueless about where he's ended up. His last memory is just a peaceful stroll through a field of flowers with his sweet old granny. Aquino just stands there, looking down at him with a mischievous grin. If you ask her, she actually went easy on him with this hiding spot. She stares him down, demanding he walk away from this mess right now before everything goes up in flames. Surveying the chaos, William's mind instantly flashes back to everything that went down over the last few days. They finally hunted down the lowlife who swiped Moonlight's gear. William watched in shock as Eri Tachibana stepped up to deliver some brutal justice. She started absolutely unloading on the guy, showing zero restraint. He was screaming for mercy, but Eri wasn't even close to finished. Aquino jumps right into the middle of it, demanding her mother stop the torture, but Eerie snaps back that this lowlife is a thief who stole their gear and isn't getting off easy. Even as Aquino desperately tries to make excuses for him, Eerie lays down the law, explaining that for an adventurer, gear is literally life or death, so stealing it is basically attempted murder, but Aquino just isn't buying that logic. William was itching to jump into the fray, but the Moonlight adventures held him back, insisting that getting any closer right now would be a total disaster. The thief is begging for his life, but Eerie Tachibana isn't showing a shred of mercy. She mutes him, lashes out with her whip, and tries to choke the life right out of him. Suddenly, Aquino bolts over to check on the thief, but Eerie lunges forward to stop them in their tracks. The thief keeps begging for mercy, sobbing his heart out. Between the tears, he reveals a tragic secret. His young son just went blind. He'd heard rumors of a legendary healer in the capital, but he didn't have a single cent to pay for the cure. His wife was already gone, snatched away by illness, leaving his son with absolutely no one but him. So he collapses to the dirt, head pressed to the ground, desperately begging for mercy. Aquino watches the scene unfold, but Eerie isn't buying any of it, exploding in a fit of rage and demanding they stop the lies immediately. Aquino marches over to the cart of stolen goods, pulls out a mysterious tool, and heads straight for the thief. Aquino bursts back into the scene and hands over a nameless masterpiece from her private stash, telling him it's worth a literal mountain of gold. The Moonlight leader tries to shut her down, but Aquino snaps back that her private stash is just a hobby that won't hurt the team's power. Then she just hands the weapon right to the thief. Mary questions if Aquino actually trusts this guy, but Aquino just smiles and says her heart knows he's for real. Eerie let those words sink in for a heartbeat before turning on her heel and heading out. Fast forward a few days, William and Aquino finally link up in private, and the first thing William asks is if Ari ever actually apologized for that whole mess. Aquino double-checks if he's talking about his mom, but the MC reveals Eerie actually got a thank you letter almost immediately after the chaos went down. The news finally breaks that the robber's son got his treatment and can see again, and when Aquino hears it for the first time, he's absolutely over the moon. William then presents a custom-forged masterpiece, and as Aquino gazes at the stunning blade he calls Snow Peak, he's absolutely floored to learn that Mrs. Eerie personally requested the build. Flashback to the aftermath of that disaster, where Arya pulls William aside for a serious chat, demanding he forge a weapon legendary enough for their next leader, while warning him that even though she's betting it all on him, this job is going to be a total nightmare. Ari's ready to hand the reins of her moonlit empire over to Aquino, fully convinced they're about to evolve into an absolute powerhouse. She's got a heart of pure gold and a freakish ability to read people, and with her by their side, the Moonlight is about to surge with insane power. Aquino hangs on every single word William says, her jaw hitting the floor in total disbelief. She's beyond grateful for her new weapon and vows to treat it like her most prized possession. And just like that, we're dropping right back into the heart of the Eurydian Valley. We kick things off right at the foot of the newly restored bridge. William rounds up the entire crew of builders who poured their sweat into the project. He's got something massive to show them, and the hype is real. Aquino can sense something big is coming and demands to know what he's cooking up. Just watch, William smirks, before shouting the command, "Let's go, Sonal!" Right there on the riverbank, William reveals a miniature model of the riverbed, complete with tiny barriers. Sonal starts dumping buckets of water, sending a mini-flood crashing down that sweeps away every rock and branch in its path. William reveals this is actually a genius model of a mudflow dam, designed to trap heavy debris while letting the water and gravel slip right through the gaps. The entire crowd is absolutely mesmerized by the massive structure as William breaks down exactly how this dam is going to secure their future for generations. Ganel suddenly spots something on the horizon and bellows, "William, look!" Every head whips around to where he's pointing, and they freeze as massive, disciplined columns of people march right toward them. Norman suddenly bursts onto the scene at the head of the column. He announces to everyone that he's finally arrived with massive reinforcements from the capital. Without wasting a second, William gives the order to start rebuilding the village from the ground up. And this time, the action is shifting straight into the heart of the Barnett Guild. The guild workers are just killing time at a table, tossing cards around because there's nothing else to do. The youngest of the crew, a blonde girl, groans that she's bored out of her mind. A bearded veteran, who used to be William's partner, nods, admitting that the job board has been looking dangerously empty lately. Panicked, the blonde girl looks up and asks if they're even going to survive this slump. Mr. Barnett glares out his office window and man, he looks absolutely livid. Meanwhile, he's crushing those vital papers into a ball right in his palm. The front door groans open as Lass strides into the office to face his father head-on. Barnett sinks into his seat and drops the bombshell that the Eurydian Bridge is already rebuilt. but he's skeptical, asking if that isn't way too fast. Barnett kicks back in his seat and drops a bombshell. Minister Gory definitely hired this lowlife, and he's betting the man behind it all is none other than William. Barnett hangs his head and drops the news. The bridge is finally rebuilt, trade routes are wide open, and the Kingdom of Murkies is definitely about to trash their secret treaty. Laston throws his arms wide, demanding to know his father's next move, but the old man just tells him to pump the brakes and think this through before he does something reckless. After a brief pause, Barnett's eyes light up with a devious smirk as he gives the order. Let the kingdoms of Donal and Murkies descend into all-out war. He's the last one to arrive, and he's looking around completely baffled by what this thing is even for. Barnett isn't lying when he says war is a goldmine for weapons, but that begs the question. Who's the one actually supplying Donal with all that heat? And that's a wrap on this epic story. Thanks a million for riding along with me. Barnett just keeps on smirking as he drops the bombshell. His company is the one actually forging all those weapons. Laston smirks and praises his old man for always having a plan, but Barnett just hacks out a cough and warns him that they've got a mountain of work ahead. Life is finally surging back into the Eurydian Valley, and now that the bridge is fixed and the anti-mud dam is standing tall, Norman gives William some major props for his hard work, knowing Minister Gory is going to be blown away by how fast they finished both the Ardain Bridge and the weir. From high above, they stare out at the ghost-like fields and silent forests, stretching into the distance. William sighs, noting that getting everyone back to a normal life is going to be a massive, grueling journey. Norman just keeps it real, telling him that the rest of the work is up to the survivors now. And lurking right behind William is none other than William himself. He whips around to find Mr. Beard and a whole squad of guys blocking his path as Beard starts introducing William to the crew. A friendly blonde guy named Creed steps up to greet William, introducing himself as a local and giving him props for all the hard work he put into the repairs. He reveals the intel from Mr. Bird. William is actually out there building an entire village. Reeling from the shock of their cold behavior, William pulls himself together and reveals that halfway to Hubbard, there isn't a single village in sight, just his lonely farmstead sitting in the middle of nowhere. The locals aren't backing down, and now they're stepping forward with a massive favor to ask. They look to William with desperate hope in their eyes, practically begging for a chance to call this village home. Our boy is back at it again, pulling off those legendary main character stunts. The storm was so brutal it literally washed their entire harvest away and wiped out their livestock, leaving them completely stranded with no clue when they'll ever be able to get back to work. They'd love nothing more than to stay safe in their village, but hunger is a cruel master, and they've got to find food before they starve. Word got out that Mr. William was building a village from the ground up, and they knew their skills would be the secret weapon he needed. William is absolutely stoked to hear that and welcomes them with open arms, admitting he's a total rookie at gardening who desperately needs their expert help. The entire town was absolutely stoked, cheering as they fully embraced the council's big decision. William vows that the second he gets back, he's going to start building their new homes right away. Suddenly, a voice rings out from right behind him, asking if anyone has actually forgotten. He spins around to find the bird squinting right in his face, admitting that while William's craft is legendary, nobody should have to go it alone. So he vows to help build the new village before he finally retires. Bird hears voices and spins around to find the master builders marching up, announcing they're officially jumping on board with William. William doesn't waste a heartbeat, being the very first one to step up and lend a hand. Our lead gathers everyone around and pours his heart out, thanking them for every single thing they've done. Bird looks the builders in the eye and promises them one thing: their lives are about to get a whole lot more interesting. The squad stands side by side, soaking in the aftermath of their work in the Eurydian Valley, knowing full well that their next big challenge is already waiting for them just over the horizon. William looks around at all the new faces in town, and he's absolutely stoked to see his village finally coming to life. She's slumped at the table over a fresh cup of tea, so bored she's literally on the verge of tears and can't even stomach a single bite. Agnes steps in to calm her nerves, promising that William will be back before she even knows it. She peers out the window and lets out a joyful scream. They've finally made it back. Limit, move it. Let's get out there and welcome them. Limit leaps out of the hut, beaming with joy as he shouts a huge "Welcome back." William shouts that he's finally back and, gesturing to the crowd, demands to meet every single new face in the village. Limit's jaw hits the floor as she's completely blindsided by this massive bombshell. Aquino steps up first, thrilled to finally be teammates. But the second she asks if Limit is from Moonlight, Limit's jaw hits the floor in total shock. He quickly snaps back to reality and tells her it's an absolute honor to meet her, while Aquino greets her right back. William welcomes the new tenants to their massive new estate, giving them the grand tour. He gestures toward the horizon, showing off the royal capital shimmering in the distance. Then, he whips his hand around to point out another landmark across the way. The village is absolutely buzzing right now as construction on those new houses kicks into high gear. Aquino and Agnes are putting in the sweat, hacking through timber to get their big construction project off the ground. Meanwhile, the maids are turning a boring chore into a total blast, cracking jokes and laughing as they scrub through mountains of dirty laundry. Gantel spots William totally zoned out right in the middle of the construction site and heads over to ask him what's going on. He gets all pensive and asks Gantel if that chaotic bandit attack is still fresh in his mind. As he talks, the memories of the ambush and their desperate rescue of Judas flash before his eyes. William admits that, honestly, he's totally clueless when it comes to swordsmanship or casting spells. But he figures having at least some kind of weapon for protection is a lot better than being a sitting duck. With things heading this way, he decides it's time to put that magical ore to use and forge something legendary. Right then, William pulls out a chunk of ore shaped like a spearhead, explaining that this isn't just any rock. It's a rare find with the insane power to suck up magic like a sponge. Ganel's jaw hits the floor, totally blown away by what he's seeing. Our MC announces he's going to craft a knife out of it and tells Ganil to watch the master at work. He starts swirling the magical ore at high speed, and in a heartbeat, it morphs into a lethal razor-sharp blade. Ganna's jaw drops at the sight of these wild transformations, but William just grips his blade, warning that even if the enchantments shut off against a non-mage, this cold steel is still just as lethal. A sudden crash shatters the air, instantly cutting William and Gandalf's conversation dead. Limit loses her balance and goes tumbling back with her water buckets, sending William sprinting to her side as he shouts out in a panic to see if she's okay. She brushes herself off, explaining she was just hauling water for the garden when she took a total faceplant. So William and Agnes rush over to help her up and steady her nerves. William scopes out the grueling path used to haul water, quickly realizing the source is miles away, and the trail itself is a total wreck. Gano rushes over to break the news that they're finally bringing in cattle, but since that's going to require a massive water supply, William gives him the green light immediately. After weighing his options, he stands before the entire crowd and drops a massive bombshell. He's finally bringing water back to the village. But let's be real, every single person watching is dying to know exactly how he pulled this off. Our hero steps up and declares he's going to build a massive water wheel. Bird jumps into the mix, hyping up the water wheel idea until Gantel lets out a roar. It's time to stop talking and start building. William starts dreaming big, but even with a mountain of wood, they're still missing the metal parts to make it a reality. So he doubles down, insisting that hitting the capital for a massive supply run is their only option. Aquino drops a total bombshell by announcing she's joining William, leaving our MC completely blindsided by her sudden move. Limit is absolutely losing his mind, screaming at the top of his lungs that he's going too. With his insane powers locked and loaded, Rudy wastes no time and guns it straight for the capital. Now we're in the kingdom's capital, where the duo is hitting the pavement and exploring the city's massive shopping district. They kick things off at a specialized metal shop to see what's in stock. Next, they hit a bookstore where William nerds out, grabbing every technical manual he can find on water wheels and advanced engineering. Finally, they dive into the chaotic city market to finish off their massive shopping haul. As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, William realizes he's completely lost track of time. He's absolutely stunned by how fast the day slipped away from him. What was supposed to be a quick run turned into a total shopping marathon that blew his entire schedule. But hey, the haul was worth it. They're loaded down with supplies and a ton of fresh seedlings for the garden. Right on cue, Limit jumps into the conversation to see what all the fuss is about. As they head out from the market, William is dead set against traveling in the dark, and Rudy admits that navigating the night sky is a total nightmare for him. He realizes they need to hunker down in a city hotel for the night, and the girls are totally on board with the plan. They head straight for the nearest hotel, where William marches right up to the front desk to see if they've got any rooms left. He makes sure the ladies have their own private quarters while he settles for the common room, earning a respectful nod from the heavily bearded official. Let's face it, since the squad is scattered, they're hit with a massive handicap that's totally holding them back. Suddenly, a voice rings out from right behind me, calling for Mr. William. William whips around to find a jurist standing there with a wide grin, and he immediately demands to know what she's even doing there. Jurist keeps his eyes glued to the floor, explaining that the guards flagged them the second they hit the Capitol gates, and she didn't waste a heartbeat tracking them down to grill them about the disaster at Iridian Bridge. William gives a sharp nod, making it clear he's fully locked in. Our MC turns to Limit and Aquino, telling them to kick back and get some rest while he heads out to handle some serious business. They give him a resounding yes, totally down for the plan. Meanwhile, William and Eurus head straight for the bar to kick back. They snag a table and Eurus stares down a cold pint as they settle in. She finally breaks the silence to get the conversation moving, After all, it's been way too long since these two actually shared a drink. William nods, admitting that the guy is absolutely spot on. Our MC just wanted a chill dinner and a cold beer, but his peaceful night is about to be absolutely wrecked. And hey, speaking of those thugs from the other day, Juris starts flashing back to the whole mess. Juris drops a bombshell from the interrogation, revealing that those mercenaries were actually taking orders from a mysterious raven familiar. Familiar? William mutters, his voice heavy with a weight that suggests he knows way more than he's letting on. He points out the familiar, realizing she's a witch leading the charge, but Juris warns that nothing is confirmed yet, revealing that the kingdom's secret deal with the Merchant Guild wasn't just a favor for Barnett. This didn't just hit their pockets, it screwed over everyone in the vicinity. And as Jura's story rolls on, you can bet the minister had a massive target on his back for trying to mess with the deal. William warns that if Barnett is the puppet master, he's far too slick to leave any traces behind. Juris warns that a massive trade summit is right around the corner, and even though the capital is crawling with guards, she's still deathly afraid that enemies of the deal are planning to sabotage the whole thing. She adds that the minister is dead set against beefing up the guard, choosing instead to bet everything on global diplomacy to bring in the wealth, and she's fully committed to helping him pull it off. Juris completely loses his cool and screams, "William, do you even realize the gravity of what we're talking about right now?" He plays it cool with the grin, claiming he gets the point, but she's still absolutely fuming. That's when our guy realizes Juris's dark addiction is finally starting to rear its ugly head. He's desperately trying to dodge the booze, but this tipsy lady judge isn't taking no for an answer. William knows the drill. Once she's wasted, she starts harassing every single person in the room, so he just nods along like a madman, frantically swearing that, yeah, he's totally down for another round. Through her tears, Jury cries out that she just wants everyone to be happy, making it clear she absolutely loathes the greedy vultures who try to hoard all the wealth for themselves. Stuck at the bar, the jurist keeps pressuring him to chug more, and as he fakes a smile, William realizes this is straight-up alcohol harassment. After knocking back way too many drinks, our guy was absolutely hammered. William wakes up feeling like absolute garbage, dragging his exhausted body back to the hotel with a skull-crushing headache. Then it hits him. That lawyer lady basically forced him to stay out with her until the crack of dawn. The next morning, she's acted like nothing had even happened, bolting out the door for a meeting and leaving him absolutely floored that she could even function after a night that intense. "Good morning, William." Limit and Aquino were already waiting at the hotel, ready to hit him with a warm welcome the second he walked in. Limit chimed in, saying the guy looked like a total zombie who'd just clawed his way out of the grave. It took those exact words to finally snap William back into reality. And with that, their big shopping spree at the capital officially wraps up. The whole gang then piles onto Rudy for the long journey back home to the village. Without wasting a single second, they dive straight into construction. William dives right into building a massive wooden water wheel, rigging the giant structure with internal paddles and buckets to start scooping up water. William breaks down the first step. They need to build a dam right in front of the water wheel to spike the water level and send that pressure through the roof. As the wheel spins, these buckets snatch up the water and dump it right into the trough while William keeps the explanation rolling. The water is about to surge down the gutter, funneling straight into the catch basin. Ganel's already staked out his spot, hovering right over the edge. He's laser-focused, just waiting for the exact second it all goes down. As water surges through the gutters, Ganel lets out a shout of pure joy because their cattle finally have plenty to drink. The water keeps rushing in, finally filling every inch of the canal the locals built from scratch. William looks on with a massive grin, clearly thrilled with the result. Now these fields can soak up all the water they need to finally thrive. Our protagonist turns to Mr. Bird to give him the credit he deserves. He thanks the man for putting in the work to get that dam and canal finished. He makes it clear that without his help, this whole plan would have been a total bust. But Bird just plays it cool, telling him there's no need for all the praise. Finally, the fields and livestock are totally safe from harm. Bird keeps on chirping with pure, unbridled joy. William gives a satisfied nod, finally feeling that sweet sense of relief. And man, the whole crew is absolutely buzzing with pure excitement. Suddenly, a bizarre sound rips through the air, catching everyone off guard. Ganel catches a suspicious noise and immediately backs up William's claim. "All right, let's move!" Everyone bolts toward the source of the noise as Limit screams out in total shock, wondering what the hell just happened. Keynote isn't about to leave Limit behind, insisting that he tags along for the ride. Right then, dangling off a sheer cliff, we see a mysterious long-haired girl clinging to a tiny twig for dear life, and screaming for someone to save her. William bolts across the sand and scrambles up the cliff to check on the girl, shouting that he's got her back as he bellows for Gandalf to start hauling up that vine. Gantel blitzes through the mission in record time, and William is seriously impressed with the results. He lashes himself to the vine and rappels down like a seasoned pro while the rest of the crew grips the line to steady his descent. William finally reaches the girl, scoops her into his arms, and the team hauls them both back to the safety of the shore. Still shaking on her knees, the terrified girl explains she just took a nasty spill off the bank, thanking them over and over for jumping in to save her. Aquino takes one look at her surroundings and starts questioning every single life choice that led her to a place like this. She steps forward and insists on helping them out. Out of nowhere, a group of mysterious attackers storm their peaceful village. William reels as the gut-wrenching news of the village invasion finally sinks in. They cornered the girl, desperate to know. Had her village been raided? William is left reeling, desperately trying to wrap his head around how everything spiraled out of control. The girl introduces herself as Slay from Taste Village, but then she drops a bombshell. A family of witches is living right on the outskirts of her town. William stops to let that sink in, his mind already racing with the possibilities. Slay keeps the story moving, explaining how the girl's mom, a witch by blood, realized she was bone dry on potion ingredients and had to venture out to restock. She ditched her daughter with the village elder and his wife before vanishing, pulling the same heartless stunt she'd done a dozen times before. But just yesterday, a massive curveball came out of nowhere and flipped the script. Out of nowhere, a gang of thugs armed with axes smashed their way into the village leader's house and snatched the kid. Right then, a ruthless gang of bandits swarmed the village, cutting off every single exit. Slay explains that she bided her time, waiting for the perfect opening to finally make her getaway. She drops to her knees before William and the gang, explaining that she's desperately racing toward the capital to bring back reinforcements. She's desperate to reach the knights ASAP, her heart hammering against her ribs as she pushes forward in a total panic. After processing the intel, Beard drops the bad news. They're still days away from the capital, and reinforcements won't reach Kino Opines for even longer. William realizes the capital's massive summit has every guard stretched thin, leaving him wondering if they'll even have enough knights to back them up. Ghani adds, "Did these attackers intentionally wait for the exact moment the village was most vulnerable to strike?" William's got a gut feeling that the witch is pulling the strings here too, and his mind flashes back to a recent talk he had with Eurus. He was dead certain people were actively sabotaging the treaty revisions, and his mind immediately flashed back to Mr. Barnett. William begs Slay to help him reach the village, and she totally sees exactly why he's so desperate. Seeing the doubt written all over her face, he looks her dead in the eye and vows to save her entire village. William gathers Keynote, Sonal, and Ganel to drop a massive bombshell. They're officially teaming up to get the job done. He whips around to the bird, asking if they can get a message to the order, and the bird chirps back a confident, "Absolutely!" He drops the bombshell that he's coming along to the capital, and Bird is absolutely floored by the news. William tries to hold her back, but Limit shuts him down, insisting that her horse is their only ticket to reaching the capital in record time. William's got absolutely nothing to say, and right on cue, Agnes chimes in. She's 100% certain that Mrs. Limit's deep-rooted ties to the Knightly Order are going to be their ultimate secret weapon. Beard confirms it. The Aver daughter isn't just some girl. She's a total powerhouse with some serious authority. William realizes they're making total sense and decides to roll with it. He turns to Limit, telling her he's got total faith in her, and she beams back, more than ready to back him up. Agnes, Limit, and Bird didn't waste a single second, leaping onto the ladies' horses and charging full speed toward the capital. With Rudy backing them up, William's crew, Aquino, Ganel, Sonal, and Slay, finally hit the road, charging straight toward the village of Tast. Before they know it, the group is already closing in on the edge of the village. Hiding under the cover of a small forest, William and his crew start scouting out the entire perimeter. Our MC hands Rudy off to Slay, barking at him to bolt the second things get too dangerous, and Slay gives a sharp nod of agreement. The crew charges toward the residential area, but just as they reach the village perimeter, Gantel spots guards standing watch at the gate. Aquino takes the lead, shouting for the group to charge ahead and corner William. He's banking on the fact that they have absolutely no idea how many bandits are actually lurking inside. He flashes a cocky smirk and suggests a wild idea, turning his own gloves into a makeshift bandana. "What's that even gonna achieve?" Sonal asks, looking totally skeptical. But our MC just tells her he's got a legendary plan in the works. A confident smirk spreads right across his face. He officially names it Operation Reunion, and as the room overflows with tears of joy, the exhausted company waits with bated breath to see what happens next. The young blonde guard at the gate is totally checked out, letting out a massive yawn like he's dying for a nap. Blending in as locals, William and Sonal sneak up on the guy, and the second William announces they've finally reached Taste Village, the guard turns around with a look of total annoyance. Sonalix announces they've finally arrived, and William gives a sharp nod. confirming they've reached the spot. While the rest of the squad huddles in the shadows, Aquino is laser-focused on the scene, and she's got a seriously bad feeling about this. But Ganel just pipes up to ask if that bandana was actually invented to hide those zonal ears. A guard stomps over to William and Sonal, eyeing them with suspicion and demanding to know if they're actually locals. He barks that the village is on total lockdown and orders them to turn around and beat it right now. But William isn't budging, quickly holding up a hand and telling the guy to just hold on a second. He breaks it down for them, explaining that whispers of their missing mother led them to this very village after a grueling cross-country trek with his sister. Sonal's voice trembles as she asks if they'll ever see their mom again, but William just flashes a bright grin and promises her it's a sure thing. William's voice drips with regret as he remembers their mom dumping them at a church shelter as kids, but the guard chimes in, insisting she must have had a reason for it. Sonal finally breaks down, letting out a gut-wrenching sob. The guard starts shaking, and the story hits him so hard he actually breaks down in tears, leaving William and Sonal absolutely stunned. The guard breaks down, sobbing about how William shielded his sister like a pair of stray kittens just trying to survive. And he's so choked up he starts scrubbing his eyes dry with his sleeve. He tells them he's got their back, swearing right then and there to help them bring their mother home. "Wait, are you serious?" William and Sonal shout in perfect unison, their jaws hitting the floor. Wiping his eyes, the guard drops a bombshell. He's an orphanage kid just like them. He reads their hearts like an open book, connecting with their pain on a level nobody else can touch. He swings the heavy gates wide, ushering William and Sonal inside. From the sidelines, Ganel's jaw hits the floor as he shouts in pure shock. The plan actually worked, and it looked like something straight out of a movie. Meanwhile, the guard hauls William and Sonal into a creepy abandoned house tucked away from the rest of the world. As they trek along, he warns that if word gets out he let a stranger in, the entire village is going to be in serious hot water. Once they're safely inside, the guard confirms the place is deserted and serves as the perfect vantage point, earning a quick thank you from William and Sonal. The guard cracks the window open and announces it's finally lunchtime, telling them to scan the massive crowd for their target. Orders bark out across the street as the guards force everyone into line for a meager meal. William peers through the window, taking in every detail of the grim scene. He locks his eyes on the house next door, betting that's exactly where they've stashed the kidnapped villagers. The guard grills him, asking if he spots a single familiar face in the crowd. William can only shrug, confessing that he's not 100% sure about anyone. This gets a laugh out of the guard, who mocks him for having a completely wiped-out memory. He pushes further, asking how he could possibly forget his own flesh and blood. But then he softens up, admitting it makes sense since William was just a little kid with barely any memories left to cling to. The guard starts getting deep about how life is a constant struggle, but Sonal suddenly cuts him off, screaming at the top of his lungs, "Where is the witch?" The guard's gut feeling kicks in and he starts grilling them. Are they actually hunting for the witch? William's desperately trying to push those nagging doubts right out of his head. He spills the beans about the village witch their mom warned them about, apologizing for their behavior and claiming his sister's biggest dream was to meet her, even throwing his arms wide to sell the act. The guard spills the beans, revealing that the witch's daughter is being held captive in a remote hut far away. Sonal just flashes a cocky smirk the second those words hit his ears. She tries to squeeze her head through the cracked window to scope out the hut, but the frame catches her bandana and yanks it right off her head. The guard's eyes widen as he spots a pair of animal ears hidden right on top of Sonal's head. This catches him completely off guard. He drops the ultimate bombshell that they aren't even related. And get this, she's actually got a tail, leaving Sonal clutching her head in shock while William stands there completely on edge. He snatches the guard from behind, slamming a hand over his mouth and warning him not to make a single sound. William seizes the guard and drops a chillingly calm warning, telling him he better stop this nonsense before things get messy. Which leaves the world flooded with orphans, all forced to scrap for survival in those miserable shelters. The guard is standing there completely blindsided, having no clue what just hit him. He starts questioning if his entire life is a disaster just because he grew up as an orphan. He spills everything, explaining how a gang of thugs completely played him. They told him about a cursed village ruled by an evil witch where he could score some seriously easy cash. He's the only one pointing fingers, swearing that anyone against the treaty changes has to be behind the attack. Amendments to what? The guard growls, demanding an answer for the second time. Our MC reveals that a crooked treaty has rigged the entire economy, funneling all the nation's gold into the pockets of a few greedy elites. William reveals that the capital is already overhauling the treaty, and if this play works, trade is going to explode, bringing a massive payday to every single citizen. William warns that if they don't fix this rigged system and stop letting the elite hoard all the luxury, the gap between rich and poor is going to explode. and the streets will be overrun with crime. William confronts the guard, reminding him that it's the innocent kids who suffer the most, and he knows that agony all too well, doesn't he? The guard goes quiet, letting those words sink deep into his head. Memories of his past life start flooding back, and he suddenly remembers the absolute nightmare of wandering aimlessly while starving to death. The guard pauses for a second, totally baffled by the chaos, but he's dead set on making sure no one else suffers the same nightmare he did. There isn't a single shred of doubt left in his mind. Back at the hideout, Aquino and Ganel are glued to the scene, waiting for the next big move. Aquino's heart is racing as she desperately asks if William is even still in one piece. Ganel just keeps his cool, pointing out that since it's still dead silent, the real chaos hasn't kicked off yet. Right then, Ganel lets out a roar as William finally bursts onto the scene. Aquino and Ganel are watching the chaos unfold, and they're completely losing their minds trying to make sense of it. William strolls over and asks if they were actually sweating over him, while Aquino immediately demands to know who else tagged along with Sonal. This towering young guard steps forward, introducing himself as Kenneth, and looking absolutely stoked to meet the gang. He drops the bombshell that after a secret talk with William, he's officially jumping ship, leaving Aquino absolutely reeling from the sudden betrayal. William jumps in, promising to explain his decision later, because right now they need the village layout ASAP, and Kenneth is totally on board. He grabs a stick and starts sketching out a map of the village right there in the dirt. Every single eye in the room is glued to him, and nobody even dares to blink. Kenneth finishes his drawing and points out the key locations they need, starting with the village head's house and the main spots where everyone hangs out. Kenneth points to a house sitting right on the edge of town, and that's exactly where the witch's child is being stashed away. William breaks down the mission. First, they're diving in to save the witch's kid, and then they're storming the mayor's house to take it back. They head straight for the lonely house, but 2 guards are already standing watch at the entrance. Kenneth takes the lead at the entrance and plays it cool with the guards, but they immediately call him out, wondering why he's slacking off instead of being at his post. Ganel and Sonal suddenly loom behind Kenneth as he drops the news that he's tracked down a few more kids in the village. Right then, Ganel and Sonal lunge at the guards, unleashing a savage storm of punches and kicks as they tear into them. Bound to a post on the floor, she can only listen as a brutal brawl erupts just outside her door, leaving her completely clueless about the chaos unfolding. The door slams open as William charges inside, desperate to know if she's safe and shouting that he's finally here to back her up. You can see the sheer terror written all over her face. Ganel bursts into the room, sighing with relief that they finally found her, while William introduces himself and explains they sprinted from the next village over, the moment they heard about the attack. She tries to explain what happened, but her voice cracks as she completely breaks down. William demanded to know what kind of madness had just gone down. She snatches her staff off the ground, claiming it as her own, and reveals it's a powerful magic weapon passed down from her mother. The second she was hauled away, they snapped her staff right in half. William doesn't hesitate, demanding that he hand over the staff right now. She hands it over with a look of pure hesitation, asking what the heck they're even planning to do with it. William ignores her and barks an order at Ganel to find him a sturdy branch. Ganel gives a quick nod and bolts into the woods to track one down. Gano storms back in clutching a tree branch, cackling like a maniac as he announces it's finally time for William to show off his magic. William carves a fresh handle from the branch, slams it onto the staff, and locks the whole thing into place. The staff is finally fixed and handed over, leaving the girl staring at it in total awe as she grips her restored weapon. Lurking right behind the MC, Kenneth is seriously doubting if William actually has the skills to back up his crafting claims. She hears the question and immediately fires back with her own. Wait. Is this really the same William, the legendary jack of all trades? William is totally blindsided, demanding to know how she even knows his name. Even Ganel and Sonal are standing there with their jaws on the floor, completely stunned. She drops a massive bombshell. Her name is Mamia, and she's the daughter of the legendary witch Marjorie. William's jaw drops as he gasps out Lady Marjorie's name, while Sonal just stands there totally lost, having zero clue who they're even talking about. She thanks him for the repair and shouts in total triumph, because she's finally ready to go and save her mom. William demands to know what she means by help, so Mamia reveals she squeezed the intel out of 2 security guards she just left face down after a brutal brawl. She overhears the guards whispering about the girl's mom, and they're in total shock that anyone actually managed to bag that absolute monster of a witch. She's dying to know where her mother could be, but Mamia is completely in the dark. William grills Kenneth for intel, but Kenneth just admits he's way too low on the food chain to know a single thing. He figures the best move is to grill the people who are actually inside the mayor's house. William rallies the squad, declaring that it's time to move out and set those villagers free. Meanwhile, a mob of armed thugs starts swarming the base of the capital's watchtower. This massive, brutal blonde guy towers over the group, screaming at the top of his lungs. "Are you all armed and ready?" The mob lets out a deafening roar, hoisting up a jagged sea of swords, axes, and daggers. They've even hauled out a custom-built cage on a cart to hold the witch Marjorie, who's looking completely broken as she desperately clings to thoughts of her daughter, Mamia. Now the spotlight shifts as we dive straight into the kingdom of Melkis. Norman finally touches down in the capital, gives the guards a casual nod, and immediately starts digging for any fresh intel on what's been going down. The guard doesn't miss a beat and gives him a respectful nod back. He reveals that the city is swarming with high-stakes meetings to finalize the treaty, but they're staying on high alert because the opposition's latest moves are looking seriously dangerous. The thunderous gallop of horses echoes through the air, and when Norman whips around, his jaw hits the floor at the sight before him. 2 horses thunder toward the group, and one rider shouts at the top of her lungs that she's limit of the Avert family. She's got a massive bombshell to drop, and she needs to spill it right now. Back at Taste Village, the tension is reaching a breaking point. William and his crew are finally making their move to bust the locals out of their cages. Kenneth scouts ahead, leading everyone into a nearby abandoned house. He tells the group they need to lay low here until the heat dies down. As they're trekking, Ganel starts grilling William about his history with Mamia's mom, but William just shrugs and asks if he's talking about Mrs. Marjorie. MC hypes her up as a world-class magician and a total beast at crafting magic tools, revealing that back in his Barnett trading company days, she was the one hooking him up with all his materials. Mamia grills the bandits, demanding to know why they'd ever snatch her mother. William reveals he's been onto this from the very start, figuring that since Marjorie is such a nightmare to deal with, someone was bound to come looking for payback. Ganel spins toward Mamia and tells her to stay calm, promising her that he's got everything under control. He vows to wipe every last one of those scumbags off the face of the earth. Aquino flashes a confident smile, reminding everyone that as long as they're standing together, everything is going to be just fine. Mamia's finally feeling like herself again and gives a massive shout-out to the squad for having her back. William surveys his massive empire, a look of pure, smug satisfaction washing over his face. He halts the squad and lays down the law. First they liberate the villagers, then they dig for the intel needed to plan their next move. Kenneth's intel confirms the hostages are being held in 2 separate houses, so Williams makes the call to split the squad and hit both targets at once. One squad is already closing in on the first target house where everyone's holed up. The guards at the front door are practically nodding off, completely unaware of the danger. Genel, Sonal, and Aquino pounce on the opening, stripping the guards of their weapons with lightning-fast precision. William and Kenneth hunkered down in their hiding spot, scouting the guards stationed outside the second house. William turns to Kenneth and tells him straight up. He's the only one he trusts to lead the charge. Kenneth gives a sharp nod, letting him know he's loud and clear. He steps outside and signals the guards at the second house, who spot Kenneth and immediately assume he's just slacking off on the job again. Kenneth lures the group inside with the promise of a legendary stash of spicy magazines he heard was hidden there. The guards trade a tense look, close the distance on Kenneth, and storm straight into the house. The house is plunged into total darkness, leaving them completely clueless on where to even start hunting for those magazines. Before they can even blink, they're bound tight from head to toe. Mamia unleashes her capture magic to pin them down, and as Kenneth cheers her on, William steps up and declares it's finally his turn to show off what he can really do. He reveals he's been forging these masterpieces using nothing but scrap metal and salvaged timber. In record time, he whips up a makeshift cage and tosses those captured bandits straight behind bars. William, Kenneth, and Mamia are soaking in their hard work, and our MC is so pumped he's sure they'll be finished by sunrise. But right as things are looking up, Sonal suddenly steps into the house. Standing right there in the doorway, she delivers the news. She reveals that the fight is already over and every single enemy has been rounded up. Every last bandit is hogtied and under the heavy guard of Ganel and Aquino. William is left completely stunned by their terrifying speed and god-tier coordination. With the bandits locked away in William's custom cage, Kenneth beams at his crew, admitting he's blown away by just how powerful they've become. And just like that, the chains are shattered and every single soul is finally tasting freedom. They're absolutely losing it with joy as they pull each other into a massive emotional embrace. One of the survivors thanks Mamia for saving their lives, but she refuses to take the credit, insisting they thank her backup instead, until William reveals that Slay was the one who actually begged for help. The man collapses to his knees before William, begging to know how he can ever repay such a massive debt. William just brushes it off, telling him that seeing the villagers safe and sound is the only reward he needs. He then gets straight to the point, asking if the man has any leads on where Marjorie might be hiding. But the man just shakes his head in disappointment. He hasn't seen a single trace of her. Aquino decides it's time to squeeze the bandits for answers. but the thugs insist they're completely in the dark. These thugs were ready to raid the village and strip it of every single treasure. William demands to know exactly who's pulling their strings. But the bandit just stammers that the orders came from some mystery man they've never even met. He's just a puppet taking orders from a middleman, which means even he has no clue who's actually pulling the strings at the top. William stares at the massive chain of command and realizes he's in for a long night. Does he seriously have to grill every single bandit just to get the truth? Right then, a pitch-black crow streaks across the sky. It swoops down and perches perfectly on Mia's hand. William is caught completely off guard by the bird's sudden arrival. Mamia drops the bombshell that it's actually her mother's familiar, leaving our hero completely rattled by this sudden link to Marjorie. Mamia pleads with the raven to finally spill the truth about where her mother is hiding. The clues point her toward a crumbling fortress deep in the southwest, and it hits Mamia instantly. That's exactly where her mother is being held. Armed with this new intel, William and his crew didn't waste a single second and hauled tail straight to the coordinates. With Rudy backing them up, the whole crew guns it straight for the castle. As he travels, William's mind races back to that mysterious crow, realizing it was the secret mastermind pulling all the strings during the Ardean Bridge incident. William's brain is spinning, wondering if Marjorie actually double-crossed him, but he just can't wrap his head around it since she was literally a kidnap victim. There's definitely a massive secret behind her move. Suddenly, a massive army swarms the castle gates, screaming for the capital's blood as they launch their full-scale assault. They're screaming for a massive payout for Marjorie, who's currently trapped in a cage on the back of a rattling wagon. A mysterious hooded figure creeps up to the cage, hiding his face as he beckons Marjorie closer just to hiss that she's a witch. He demands to know if she's ready to infiltrate the castle and assassinate Minister Gory, reminding her that her daughter's life is the price of failure. Marjorie is bound in heavy chains, demanding to know how she's supposed to take out the minister without her magic, but the man just tells her he'll unleash her when the moment is perfect. She's absolutely fuming, cursing her luck and the cold steel chains pinning her down. Marjorie flashes back to the day she ditched home to hunt for magical weapon materials, leaving Mamia behind in someone else's hands. While she's trekking through the dense forest, a mysterious voice suddenly stops her dead in her tracks. An old man stands there cloaked in a deep hood, his face completely swallowed by the shadows. She locked eyes with him, demanding to know his true identity. He kept running his mouth, calling her out for ditching her daughter back in the village for so long, and Marjorie, absolutely fuming, snapped and told him to say that one more time. Suddenly, the guy lunges forward and snaps handcuffs onto her wrists. With his partner appearing out of nowhere, she's got zero chance of fighting back. And that's when the stranger drops a total bombshell. He actually needs her help. Soon, orders from this mystery man started pouring in, even for the chaos at Ardean Valley, and she followed them blindly, totally clueless about the dark endgame he was plotting. It finally clicks. Their true mission is to take out Minister Gory, a man who's actually a saint, but apparently, even the good ones have a massive target on their backs. Marjorie's having serious second thoughts about offing the minister, but if she backs out now, she's left totally clueless on what to do next. She sent up a silent prayer, desperately begging Mamia to just keep hanging on. Suddenly, voices start booming down from the heavens. The stranger cranes his neck, desperate to see what's descending. Marjorie looks up too, but her heart stops when she recognizes that voice. Rudy streaks across the sky with Mamia on his back, as she screams at the top of her lungs for them to give her mom back. Marjorie chokes out the name with everything she's got. Mamia. Mamia swings her staff, unleashing a tidal wave of magic that slams right into the crowd. The whole squad finally makes their move as Aquino, Ganel, and Sonal charge straight into the heat of the battle. All hell breaks loose as the clash finally ignites. The mysterious guy by the cage realizes they're losing and books it into the shadows. Marjorie screams for him to wait, trying desperately to pull him back. But suddenly a voice rings out from behind her, calling her name. She whirls around to find William standing right in front of her, and when she demands to know what he's doing there, he just tells her he'll explain the whole mess later. He asks about the heavy shackles on her wrists, and she reveals the terrifying truth. They're actually dampening her insane magical power. William whips out a dagger, and while a stunned Marjorie demands to know where he got it, he tells her he's finally breaking her out of there. Stoked that his planning actually paid off, William jams the dagger into the lock and snaps those handcuffs wide open. Back at the front lines, Akito is desperately holding his ground against an opponent who completely outclasses him. It hits her right then. She's completely outclassed and totally surrounded by enemies who are way out of her league. Suddenly, a massive bolt of lightning shatters the silence as Marjorie bursts from her cage. Overflowing with power and reunited with her daughter, she demands the right to personally settle the score with everyone who crossed her. Every rebel freezes and stares at the heavens as the shadow of a mysterious beast emerges from the heart of the lightning storm. A blinding flash of lightning rips through the sky, exposing a mob of armed goons who are absolutely losing their minds. Suddenly, a massive dragon of pure fire erupts into the sky. But this isn't just any beast. It's a lethal storm crow summoned straight from Marjorie's insane arsenal. It absolutely incinerates the rebels in a massive inferno. And in the blink of an eye, the entire battlefield is turned into a graveyard. William lets out a low whistle, clearly blown away by the sight before him. Ganil is completely blown away, shouting out in total disbelief. Aquino stands there paralyzed, stunned by the overwhelming surge of magical energy. Marjorie watches the whole thing unfold, her eyes filled with nothing but pure respect. Mamia bolts toward her, screaming out for her mom at the top of her lungs. She sprints forward and practically tackles her into a massive hug. Marjorie drops to her knees and pulls her daughter into a crushing hug, telling her just how grateful she is that her little girl is safe and sound. Mamia steps up and makes it clear to everyone that William and his crew were the ones who truly saved her life. Marjorie grills William, demanding to know the truth about where he actually came from. Our boy chokes on his answer, totally second-guessing what he should say next. Marjorie wheels around to her daughter, searching her eyes to see if she's being real or if she just played her and the entire village for fools. She tells herself she's got to stay on high alert, because if she'd actually been captured, she'd be toast. Honestly, she only made it out alive because William and the squad came to her rescue. William turns to Marjorie, his voice thick with relief as he tells her the whole group is absolutely ecstatic she's still breathing. But his mind is absolutely racing with a million unanswered questions. Marjorie turns on William with a dead serious look, blaming him for everything, claiming that if he hadn't quit the company and stopped supplying her with those magic weapon materials, she never would have left home and the village would have never been attacked. William stands there frozen, his jaw practically hitting the floor, but Marjorie just bursts out laughing and tells him she was totally messing with him. Our MC is absolutely reeling, unable to wrap his head around the fact that the invader was secretly plotting to take out Minister Gory. Suddenly a voice booms out, screaming William's name at the top of their lungs. He spins around only to see Limit thundering toward him on horseback, with a massive wave of cavalry backing him up. She leaps off her horse and explains they hit Tast Village first. But after hearing William's squad headed for the old castle, they hightailed it straight here. Norman steps into the frame next, instantly demanding to know what the heck just happened. William points out the fresh carnage, showing him a battlefield absolutely blanketed in corpses. Once they finish their introductions, the crew sets up camp right under the massive fortress walls, but they're way too wired to sleep, so they head up to the ramparts to scout the area. Mamia's eyes are locked onto a building in the distance, and Aquino can tell something's up, asking her what's the deal. Mamia's finally standing in front of the real thing, seeing the building with her own eyes after only ever reading about it in her books. This place is absolutely massive! Gantel jumps in, asking if everyone else is seeing this, because he never imagined a structure this gargantuan could actually exist in the heart of the capital. Mamia's jaw hits the floor the second he hears the word capital. Ganel explains that William actually dragged him along to the capital during a business trip. Mamia asks what the capital is like, admitting she's never actually stepped foot outside her tiny village before. Ganon hypes up the capital, describing a city bursting with crowds and legendary food. But he's just getting started. Mamia and Ganel are so locked into their conversation that they don't even notice the sun has long since disappeared. They're completely lost in their own world, totally unaware that Keynote and Limit have been searching for them and finally tracked them down. Instead of jumping in, the two just hang back and watch the scene unfold with huge smiles on their faces. Suddenly, William steps through the castle gates and snaps everyone back to reality, announcing that it's officially late. He rounds the corner to find the whole squad waiting, and William is totally floored, asking if they seriously stayed up all night just for him. They usher him in for a feast, and William and Gandalf finally settle into their seats. Agnes starts piling up the plates with some serious grub. She mentions that the rest of the crew has already finished eating for the night. William gives Agnes a quick shout-out of thanks for the meal. He jokes that he's so absolutely famished, he could devour a whole horse. William takes his sweet time with his meal, explaining that grinding out a report for the entire Order of Knights was a total marathon. There's no turning back now because we're talking about a full-blown plot to take out Minister Gory, and the second Akame joins the huddle, Mine backs her up, saying she's 100% right. William doubles down, claiming that digging up the truth behind this case is going to be a total walk in the park. But the problem is, everyone they've grilled so far has zero clue who actually ordered the hit, so tracking this mastermind down is going to be a total nightmare. Our MC keeps pushing the theory that the anti-treaty rebels are behind this, noting that unlike the big bridge mess, this hit was way more direct. They just wanted Minister Gory dead on the spot. William's dying to know what kind of muscle the conspirators are planning to unleash if that treaty actually gets revised. Marjorie strides back onto the scene, announcing that her mission is officially a wrap. Mamia sprints over and pulls her into a massive, joyful hug. William gives Marjorie his seal of approval, telling her she did an incredible job. She reveals she's been using her familiar to save people in secret, making them swear to keep quiet about the dark orders she was forced to follow. "Simply brilliant!" William shouts with pure excitement. Mamia pours her heart out, telling her mom she was absolutely worried sick. Marjorie finally breaks and offers her daughter a sincere apology. Marjorie whirls around to William, demanding to know if the rumors she heard from Limit about building a brand new village are actually the real deal. William keeps shoveling down his meal, pausing only to drop a bombshell. Yeah, it's all true, but they're only halfway through the plan. Marjorie turns to her daughter with a grin, asking if she's down for an adventure to the new village. William freezes mid-bite as a suffocating tension grips the room, leaving Mamia totally clueless about the storm she just stirred up. Marjorie admits that after witnessing Mamia's magic today, she's absolutely stunned to see her daughter has finally evolved into a true master. But Marjorie drops a major catch. This only happens if Mamia's heart is truly set on becoming a magician. Silhouetted against a solitary moon, Marjorie looks her daughter dead in the eye and breaks the news. It's time to leave the nest and finally face the world. Mamia takes a split second to think before locking in, her eyes burning with zero doubt as she declares she's ready for this. Marjorie gazes at her daughter, her eyes softening with pure, heartwarming love. She whips around to William, putting him on the spot to see if he's actually got the guts to object. William flashes a confident smirk and shoots back with a quick, "Of course not." Marjorie's head is spinning with mixed signals. She's over the moon for her daughter, but the crushing weight of their looming goodbye is hitting her hard. The whole squad is absolutely buzzing with energy and ready to charge headfirst into their next epic journey. And just like that, a pitch-black night swallows the ancient castle whole. The whole squad finally makes it back to their home village and wastes no time getting right back to the grind. He's howling with laughter while screaming the command, but the cold reality hits. It's just not working. William starts putting Mamia through her paces with some magic training, and as she grips her staff and asks if her form is on point, he explains that magic is a completely different animal than just crafting gear. Just as Ganel strolls up, loving the fact that William is finally stepping into the role of a teacher. While sweating it out in the fields, Kenneth watches from a distance and cheers William on to keep up the momentum. Kenneth pulls up on Kenneth to see what's good. Kenneth keeps it chill and daps him right back. Kenneth asks how the absolute grind in the fields is treating him lately. Kenneth doesn't hesitate to admit that every single win he's had is 100% thanks to William. He never in a million years imagined this was the fate waiting for him. Kenneth reveals that even while he was busy saving Tass Village from those ruthless bandits, he somehow ended up getting tossed right behind bars. His old crew cornered him in the cell, screaming that he was a dirty traitor, and just as he accepted his death sentence, a mysterious voice suddenly called out to him. William pulled the Knightly Order's representatives together and laid it out plain. Kenneth was the one who helped liberate the entire village. Kenneth finally walked free, but there was a massive catch. He was now stuck under William's thumb 24/7. DMC then turns to Kenneth and asks if he's down to help build the village from the ground up. He vowed to wipe his slate clean and start a brand new life, as Kenneth keeps the momentum rolling. Out of nowhere, he roared at the top of his lungs that he'd follow William for the rest of his life. He wheels around to Ganel, demanding to know if he's already forgotten his deal with William. And Ganel has a total oh crap moment as he realizes it almost slipped his mind. He whirls toward William and bellows, "William, looks like we've got company!" The surprise visitor is the big boss of Velgen Village himself, Atkins, a distinguished bald guy sporting a killer beard and mustache. William meets him and leads him back to the base. Atkins gazes up at the massive 3-story structure in total shock, stunned that the tiny shack he remembered had transformed into this absolute unit. William just smiles and explains that since the village is growing like crazy, they had to start building up to keep everyone under a roof. Atkins keeps gushing about how the village is finally starting to buzz with life. William chimes in, revealing that a lot of these new faces actually followed him from his old hometown. To show his thanks, William invites Atkins to kick back and witness all the incredible progress they've made. They head inside to settle down for some tea, but the mood shifts instantly when William reveals he's got a personal letter straight from Minister Gory himself. Atkins chimes in, reminding everyone that this wasn't just a rumor. It actually made front-page news. William's calling it, the treaty revision is officially in high gear. He mopes about how his daughter is so constantly swamped that she's basically forgotten he even exists. Right in the middle of the conversation, Limit speaks up and demands to know exactly who his daughter is. William quickly apologizes, asking if he seriously forgot to mention that until now. He drops the bombshell that Atkin's daughter is named Eurus, and the entire room gasps, unable to believe their ears. As Atkins sips his tea, he mentions his daughter is still single despite being at the perfect age. But he says it with a proud smile, because she's always been one to carve her own path. Atkins pulls William aside and begs him to tell Eurus she needs to visit her old man way more often. He admits the guy is spiraling into a total drunken mess, drowning his sorrows just to cope with all this chaos. He sets his cup down and ducks toward the floor, suddenly remembering the gifts he almost left behind. Atkins hauls a basket of seedlings over and sets it down right in front of them. He reminds them that their true calling is tilling the earth and working the fields, isn't it? William and his crew are absolutely hyped to accept the gift. Atkins breaks it down for us. These guys throw massive festivals all through the growing season just to make sure their harvest hits big. He's got a plan. Why not bring that exact same setup to the new village and get things moving? This idea immediately hooks William, and he's totally all in. A little while later, William rounds up the entire village for a massive announcement, telling everyone that thanks to their hard work, this tiny settlement has absolutely exploded in size. He's doubling down, rewarding their hard work and fueling their growth to make sure they reach the next level. They're kicking off a massive celebration to toast their victory. This caught everyone completely off guard, but man, the entire village is absolutely losing it with joy. Finally, the massive festival everyone's been hyped for has officially arrived. To make sure the locals have the best time ever, the main street is packed with awesome market stalls while the whole village is decked out in vibrant garlands and flags. William and Limit head out to check the results and are completely blown away by the insane energy in the streets, while Ganel seizes the moment to ask Mamia out for a stroll. William strolls through the district, grinning as he sees his master plan running like a well-oiled machine. He's certain that giving the town's best chefs their own workspace was a total stroke of genius. That one decision turned the whole area into a bustling food paradise for every traveler passing through. On his way, he runs right into Bird and the gang, knocking back some ice-cold local brews. These are the same legends who actually helped build the town's shops from the ground up. William thinks back to the grind, remembering how he had to handcraft every single missing tool and gadget from scratch. As they pass a pastry shop, Ganel's eyes lock onto some bizarre-looking molds, and William casually reveals he actually custom-forged those metal beauties specifically to level up his baking game. Ganel can't resist the feast any longer, diving in and grabbing a massive plate of meat for himself. William lets out a laugh, telling him they don't serve octopus here. They've got Kraken instead. Out on the street, they run into Sonal, who's so dangerously bloated from overeating that she can barely even breathe. Limit sprints over to her, frantically asking if she really just ate her way into a medical emergency. Agnes absolutely dominates the archery competition by nailing every single bullseye, and William steps in to congratulate his champion, admitting he knew she'd crush it all along. The stadium is absolutely electric as Kenneth and Beard face off in the arm wrestling finals, while Limit beckons William to lean in close. She's staring at the festivities in total awe, admitting she's never seen a celebration this full of life before. William just grins, telling her the real party is only just getting started, while Limit stands there totally clueless about what he actually means. William wheels around to Mamia, locking eyes as he asks if she's finally ready to do this. Mamia grabs her staff and marches straight into the center of the massive crowd, slamming it down to unleash a blinding burst of magic. Suddenly, the night sky erupts into a blinding kaleidoscope of neon light as fireworks paint the heavens in every color imaginable. The crowd is absolutely losing it, and while Limit gushes over the spectacle, William reveals he's the one who pushed Mamia to go all out with that insane high-tier magic. High above the village, the night sky is still absolutely exploding with a non-stop barrage of fireworks. William gazes at the vibrant display, his mind instantly spiraling back into his deepest memories. He flashes back to his old life, hunched over a desk and buried under a mountain of empty coffee cans. Suddenly, a thunderous barrage of cannon fire erupts outside, and he instantly snaps his gaze toward the window. He looks up to see dazzling bursts of color exploding into the night sky, towering right over the city's massive skyscrapers. And get this, all this insanity is popping off while he's just grinding away at his desk in a massive corporate office. The world fades to black, but through the darkness, he can just barely make out someone desperately shouting for William. Just as he hits his absolute limit, Mamia, Ganel, Sonal, and Aquino appear before him, calling out in perfect harmony that everyone is waiting for him to finally join them. The party rages on as the dance floor heats up, and after a split second of hesitation, William announces he's heading over. He thinks back to when he felt like the only soul left in this world. But those lonely days are ancient history now that he's finally found a crew to call his own. William closes the distance and dives right into the sea of dancers. But just as he joins the party, a mysterious figure is stealthily creeping through the dense forest nearby. Standing right there is a mysterious stranger with long flowing hair. She's rocking a casual look with rolled-up sleeves and short shorts, paired with knee-high socks and some sturdy boots. But check this out. She's gripping a massive scythe with a bizarrely decorated blade that looks anything but ordinary. She emerges from the shadows of the forest and stops dead in her tracks, her eyes glued to the fireworks exploding over the new village. As the sun rises, William, Limit, and Aquino trek into the woods to check on the massive new road heading toward the capital, but Limit's already getting impatient, wondering how much longer until it finally reaches Hubbard. William gives the squad all the credit for their massive success, but now he's got to head to the capital to show the higher-ups exactly what they've pulled off. Limit absolutely loses her mind, screaming that she's heading to the capital too, and Aquino joins the chaos, shouting that she's not letting William leave her behind. BMC puts his foot down and bans all-nighters for good, but Limit and Aquino are absolutely fuming at William's new decree. Suddenly, William catches the sound of someone calling out his name. He whips around to find Ganel standing right there with a fresh meal, and William wastes no time showing his appreciation. Right then, our hero picks up a massive, chilling signal coming straight from his house. Ganel admits she went way too hard on the festival food yesterday and is totally paying for it now. William flashes back to how Sonal was looking absolutely miserable and under the weather. With her stomach painfully bloated, she had no choice but to call it a night and collapse into bed. That's when Lemmy rushed over to check on her and make sure she was actually okay. Ganel spots a strange device in Williams's hands and demands to know what it is. So our MC shows off what looks exactly like a high-tech electronic tablet. He reveals that this gadget is actually a high-tech radar built to sniff out every drop of magical energy. Gantel is absolutely floored, questioning if William really has the genius to pull off making a magical energy detector. He recalls watching a legendary mage tech expert build this exact device, so he recruits Mamia to help him recreate the masterpiece. William's convinced the neighborhood is crawling with vile spirits, and he's betting this detector is the only thing standing between them and a total nightmare. Deep in the heart of the forest, William and the crew are huddled over their new detector, but William warns them that since magic tech is a total nightmare to build, this prototype's range is still pretty pathetic. Suddenly, the detector screen lights up with glowing dots, leaving Gano wondering if their own mana is what's making the radar go crazy. William pauses for a second, his mind drawing a total blank as he tries to wrap his head around what this thing even is. Creepy, unrecognizable noises start echoing through the trees, getting louder by the second. The detector screen starts pulsing with a blinding light, screaming that something is close. Just as the sun vanishes, the forest is swallowed by a pitch-black, eerie darkness. The team freezes as they realize they've walked straight into a massive enemy ambush. Without warning, terrifying monsters burst out from the thickets, ready to strike. The crew is fired up and absolutely itching for a fight. They snatch up their blades in perfect sync. Aquino begs William to keep Limit safe, and William is so locked in that he understands the entire assignment without her saying another word. Aquino dives headfirst into the fray, squaring off against a massive gorilla-like beast that towers over the team with a mouthful of savage fangs. Out of nowhere, Ganel leaps into the fray and starts throwing hands like a total pro, putting his insane martial arts skills on full display. A massive horde of monsters is swarming in, closing the gap from every single direction. William's losing his mind trying to figure out where this endless swarm of monsters is coming from, and he's betting that all the reckless deforestation is the real reason for the chaos. That tree behind William wasn't just scenery, it was a deadly trap waiting to spring. A branch snakes out and clamps down on his dagger hand before he can even react. Limit spots the ambush and screams a desperate warning at the top of her lungs, but it's no use. The trap has already snapped shut. William pours every last drop of his energy into breaking loose, but he's just not powerful enough to snap those restraints. Suddenly, an invisible force slices the tree clean off right at the roots. The tree slams into the ground and the monsters bolt in pure terror. Limit stares at the wreckage, his heart sinking as he watches everything fall apart. Kino and Genel are left standing there, completely baffled by the chaos. Genel's eyes widen as he watches the monsters vanish into the distance at breakneck speed. William scrambles to his feet after that insane stroke of luck. But the second he looks up, he's stunned to find a familiar face from his past waiting for him. Look who it is, the same mysterious stranger watching the fireworks from the tree line. And William's voice trembles as he turns toward her and stammers, "Lydia?" They finally settle in and start getting into the thick of it. William cuts right to the chase, asking if she's completely lost her way. Lydia doesn't even blink before admitting she's totally stranded. She starts laying it all out, revealing the secret intel her grandfather sent her about his trip and every one of those high-stakes business connections. Without wasting a second, she scrambled to get to William. She made it all the way to Averga State, only to get completely turned around in the confusion. Lydia explains that while wandering through the dark forest, she spotted mysterious lights floating into the sky and decided to head straight for the source. It suddenly hits William. Lydia was actually watching the festival's massive firework display at that exact moment. But she ended up totally stranded, and right now every single person there is hanging on her every word. She explains that while roaming the deep woods, she caught wind of some bizarre noises and decided to investigate. Bursting into a clearing, she saw a pack of monsters absolutely swarming William and his crew. She knew she couldn't just stand there, so she jumped straight into the heat of battle. After hearing her side of the story, William gives her a massive thank you for saving their skins. William wheels around to his crew and drops the bombshell. This girl is actually the legendary blacksmith Dennis's granddaughter. Aquino's jaw hits the floor at the sight of Dooney, while Gano leans in with burning curiosity, desperate to know, is this really the legendary blacksmith? Lydia nonchalantly hands William a mysterious scroll from her grandfather, making him double-check. Wait, you mean this is from Dennis? William snaps open the note to find a simple plea. Look after my granddaughter. And he knows right then that this is Dennis's final wish coming straight from the heart. We're picking up right where things left off a little while ago. William and Rudy finally hit the road to kick off their big journey. They've barely covered any ground before William realizes they're already closing in on their destination. Rudy starts acting a bit shaky as the reality of the trip sets in. Our MC asks him point blank if he's finally ready to find out where they're actually headed. Williams all smiles as he heads off to Dennis's workshop for an Everett family order, but the MC is already cooking up a plan for a partnership. Even though rumors say Dennis is a total eccentric who rarely takes on new jobs, William finds himself completely lost in the shadows of his past. He remembers the exact moment he laid eyes on a masterpiece forged by Dennis. This blade was so stunningly crafted that its sheer elegance literally took his breath away. His mind then shifts to a time he was wandering deep in the forest and crossed paths with a mysterious young girl. William walks up to find her clutching a mysterious book and sobbing her heart out, so he immediately asks if she's doing all right. Right then and there, she whipped the book open and started devouring the pages. As the meaning of the words finally clicked, William realized he was holding a literal grimoire, leaving him baffled as to how a mere child ended up with something so powerful. She hoisted a bizarre blade high above her head and started swinging it with wild intensity. William barely had a split second to let out a desperate shout. Wait! Stop! She's not the enemy! Don't do it! The steel of the blade was covered in some of the most stunning, intricate engravings you've ever seen. The sheer force of that swing sent the girl crashing to the ground unconscious, leaving William and Rudy absolutely terrified as the forest began to go dark. Back at the estate, Dennis is frantically searching high and low for his granddaughter, Lydia. He finally remembers sending her to the next village for supplies, but the sheer effort it took to recall that shows his memory is completely shot. Dennis spots William hauling Lydia over his shoulder like a sack, but the second she's down, she's sprinting into her grandpa's arms with pure joy. Once Lydia was finally tucked away, Dennis and William sat down for some tea, where Dennis dropped a massive bombshell. That magic book he gave his granddaughter actually houses every single weapon he's ever forged. He explained that to truly create something, you have to master every single detail, because Dennis's ultimate goal is for Lydia to surpass him and become an even greater blacksmith. But she was painfully shy, constantly struggling to find the courage to speak her mind. Dennis turned his gaze toward his granddaughter, who was already fast asleep. He explained that because she's such a total klutz, she pours her entire heart and soul into her blacksmithing just to make sure she gets every single detail perfect. Right then, Dennis vowed that since William saved his granddaughter, he was stepping up to shoulder William's entire workload himself. C scans the crowd and realizes that this very moment was the spark that ignited his lifelong friendship with Dennis and Lydia. Limit checks if Lydia's hungry and tosses her some bread. And as she admits she's actually pretty famished, Aquino steps up with a full spread and tells her to go wild. Totally wiped out and barely standing, Lydia pours out her heart to thank them for everything they've done. William is absolutely buzzing right now, thrilled with how that meeting went and how perfectly his day is turning out. Meanwhile, over at the crumbling Barnett company, the gears of fate are finally starting to grind. Mr. Barnett loses his cool and slams his fist down on the table. He's absolutely losing it, screaming that their entire master plan, the capital raid, Minister Gory's assassination, and the setup to spark a war with Dahl has been a total and utter disaster. Standing right across from him is his son, Laston, who's begging his old man to just chill. But Barnett roars back that keeping cool is impossible when they're buried under a mountain of problems. Last just flashes a confident smirk, telling them he's already cooked up a plan. He slides a note over to his old man, announcing that a new client has finally arrived, and Barnett's interest is instantly piqued. He snatches the paper right out of his son's hands, and his jaw drops when he realizes it's a perfect match. With a wicked smirk, he lets his father know that this mysterious guest actually drifted in straight from the sea. Barnett and Last lock eyes, the silence between them heavy enough to cut with a knife.